Okay, we are recording this week.
Oh wow, look at that.
Yep, and there's going to be people listening to this banter right now as I take us into the Facebook Live.
Okay, that's cool. Ooh, a lovely, lovely fall day.
Yes, it is. It's beautiful out.
Now with my new microphone.
Yes. Look at you go with the technology weeks. You're just
Why my 16-year-old kid put it together. I can't fucking do this. You kidding me?
you shouldn't have told me that if you wanted to impress me. You should have been like, I did this.
I'm not gonna be honest. Because then what's gonna happen is you're gonna break your microphone. You think, can you fix it? I'd be like, take it to the shop, Mayor. I'm not gonna fucking help with that. but
Can you fix this technology?
just get a new one like everyone else does.
Uh,
What's wrong with you? But no, but you know what though? It seems like it'd be easy to do, but it really wasn't. Like, I need to get one of those lightning connector things, whatever the fuck that is.
I have no idea what that
You know,
is.
it's something that can see. This iPad's an older version, apparently.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I had to get some kind of adapter, which of course didn't come with it.
Oh, right.
You know, but you know what though? They knew it though because it came with a coupon saying like us on Facebook and we'll send you a free adapter. Let's fucking send the free adapter. What the hell?
Because they want you to like them on Facebook.
Oh, so they hold me ransom to get a damn thing?
Yeah.
But regardless, I don't even care. But it was but I got it and it's working because
Awesome. It's just taking forever to take us into the live right now.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm gonna the good news is though it's warmer than it was last week.
Well, that's good.
Last week was freaking freezing.
Yeah, it started off cold here last week and today it's a lot better.
I think it'll be a nice weekend here. I think
yeah.
We haven't had really any rain here in like I don't even know when last week.
We're supposed to be getting rain this week, I think.
I think it's like 30-40% chance of rain a couple of days this week. But for recording night, it looks nice. For everything else, it looks nice. But yeah, it was just it's just like I gotta cut my grass because it looks like a sand trap right now.
Okay, I'm gonna take us live now.
All right, sign on this.
Live number 6. Oh my god. Yeah, I've got it up on my Facebook page.
She said. Oh, there
it is. Gabe Morse, don't forget to record.
He knows you well.
Yep.
So I'm gonna put this right here so I can see the comments. Okay. And we are fucking live. Okay.
We are live now?
I think so. You tell me.
Yep, we are.
So.
Yep. Okay. There we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Now that we've been talking for a few minutes.
Talking like a half an hour. Yeah. Oh, look, who's on? Jenna's on.
Is she?
Good rolling. Hey, Jen. How are you?
Oh, I need to not have this on. Turn down. Hey, Jen.
You with the technological difficulties.
I am.
So.
Oh, some dingus named Darren Weeks is watching us.
He sucks, by the way. But anyway, so how are you? How was your last couple of days?
It was very, very good.
I mean, I talk all the time, but I mean,
exactly. We talk every time.
How was your last 15 minutes?
Good. I was talking to you.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I have our mug too.
I went with the Antietam mug today.
Nice.
I just felt it was
appropriate because that's what our latest episode is.
Yeah,
and Gabe is on from El Paso. Hey, Gabe, and thank you for reminding me to hit record.
El Paso, which Spanish means past, right?
Look at you go.
I don't know. What do I know? It sounds like I used to live in Texas. I used to live in Arlington, Texas, back in the day.
Nice.
That was a good place down there. So look, Roger's watching. Hey, Raj. He's my
hey, Roger.
Our football buddy.
Nice.
The king of the Hot Wing Challenge.
Oh, cool.
You may have seen some of those videos.
Yes, I have.
He's insane with the hot sauces.
Yep. Hey, hot sauce is awesome.
Oh, it certainly is. It certainly is.
Do you know that in Sherman's memoirs, there's this story that when he's out in, I think it's California, Jen and I have actually talked about this story. We were talking about it at Sherman's birthday of all places when we went there in February. And Sherman writes about this time that like there was all these hot chilies and he didn't realize it. So he like takes a huge mouthful of them and he said his mouth was on fire. And then he said that made his host happy because his host loved hot food. And Sherman was like, I was more than happy to let him eat all of that.
And then he took that heat later.
Yeah, he took the heat later, and then he brought the heat to Atlanta. Ooh.
He brought the heat. Too funny.
Oh, Jen said, Mayor Chris says hi. Well, tell him I said hi. Is he watching too? Chris is one of her friends. He actually reenacts as General Sherman.
Oh,
Oh, Allie's watching, and so is Amelia. So hey, oh, we're getting quite a few people this morning. That's awesome.
how come you can see people who are watching? I can't. I mean, I can't.
Because I bring it up on my screen because I'm magical. I have the power of Grayskull.
Oh, we talked about that. Yeah. Undefeated hot sauce challenge. I even beat a man of food challenge record in Columbus. That's awesome.
Nice.
He's.
Gabe Byrne.
I'll tell you something about Roger though. He we've done Buffalo, we've done Chicago, and there's other places. He did those Gettysburg Ghost Wings. Those really ones. I'll give him pride. That I would never in a fucking life do that. That was absolutely insane. And the stuff you look at and just makes you cry. And he won like a fire hat in Chicago.
Nice.
I don't know how the hell he does it. That's
nice. I had a very interesting experience at the Blue and the Gray in Gettysburg on Build a Burger night when I got habaneros. And I was like, I can do this. And I started shoveling them in my mouth because I didn't really have a burger. I had like a veggie patty on rice, but whatever. Start shoving them in my mouth. And I'm like, wow, these are really, really good. Within 5 minutes, my mouth is on fire. Like, and it was 3 hours later and it was still on fire. Nothing would get rid of it at all. And I didn't know at the time. I'm such an idiot. I didn't realize at the time like milk would have helped, but no.
Well, habaneros, that's good. And the ghost ones. I mean, there's that whole Scoville chart that has the levels. One day we went to Roger here. We went to our Red Sox opening game back when Boston had a baseball team, and what happened was he brought this chili stuff. He had this hot sauce that he had. It was actually in a fire, like a grenade, like a plastic grenade. It was like the hottest goddamn thing. He wanted to bring it in the ballpark. I didn't think that the Red Sox going to bring a grenade into Fenway Park, so we kept it in the car and we had it afterwards. But stuff like that, I like the hot stuff, but not.
I do too. I like hot stuff too.
Ben says, "Why would you do that to yourself?" Good point.
Jen,
you made all those habaneros.
Why do I do half the stuff I do?
Oh, that's a story. That's
a story. Like, it's one of those things where I thought it was a really genius idea at the time, and I grossly overestimated the power of an habanero. Would I do it again? Absolutely.
Habanero's good, but yeah. Welcome to my gravestone's going to say.
Gabe said milk and bananas.
True bananas. My gravestone killed at Gettysburg, and what possessed him to do this? I'll probably die listening to a radio in the bathtub or something. That's how I'm going to go. Something stupid like that, probably. Blimp accident. Hot air balloon gone wrong.
Manuel says, good morning. Jen's laughing. So anyway, kind of got off the rails there a little bit with that, but that's okay. That's what these are about. We managed to fit some Civil War talk into it. There's a bee again. Holy fuck. They need to stay away. So yeah.
Really? What's getting attacked by a bee like?
I don't know. What is getting attacked by a bee like, Darren?
Yeah, you joke about it, but again, I saw the light that day. I could have gone over the bridge to rest under the shade of the trees.
Jen, mouth on fire, worth it. Yeah, it totally is.
Yeah,
that was a complete YOLO moment. And then like I would let it die down a little, and then I would just shove more in my mouth.
It's like an ice cream headache. Eat it, get an ice cream headache, and it goes away. Then eat more ice cream.
Yep. No, this was a complete like. It's like it was such a self-destructive thing I did. Like it was. It was so bad. Anyway, so our latest episode is about the Battle of Antietam. We had a great time recording it, and I love to know all about the Civil War, but admittedly, I am a little bit more Western theater, as my name right today, Chickamauga.
You're always gonna be Chickamauga. You can be Chickamauga fangirl pretty soon.
It's not happening. Anyway, so admittedly, like I've been a little bit more immersed in the Western theater the last 3 years, but since I met you, I've been kind of getting more into the Eastern theater, and I've learned a lot about you from that. So I have to say, like, I thought I knew Antietam, but now I know Antietam a lot better than I did.
I think Antietam isn't just something you kind of memorize. I think it's something you learn. Because I think when, we've talked about this probably too many times now, but Antietam is in, as you study Antietam, the pre, the post, the political ramifications, everything, you realize how important it was.
Yeah.
That I think I've certainly come around. I've thought this for a little while. I've certainly come around to the point that Antietam is the most important battle of the Civil War.
Absolutely.
And if they lost that, I think the writing's on the wall, and I think it's a matter of time for the Union just quits. Like I think we were saying the other day, you wonder how many times Lincoln sat back in his White House and said, This is
Yeah.
what the hell?"
Especially like, like Lincoln in 1862, he's got so many, like, he's juggling so many different things. Like so it's basically like military, it's McClellan are his three big issues. But then he's got to deal with Pope. And then on the political side of things, he's got cabinet drama happening with Seward and Chase being fucking diva bitches and like writing letters of resignation and all that. That happened near the end of the year. But then he's got like the congressional elections and he's got all these losses and he's got the foreign intervention thing too. So there's, and also the death of his son, Willie. He's got so much going on. And
it's hard to believe that a guy who got shot in the head in 1865, that 62 was a worse year in his life than 65.
1862 was Lincoln's 2020.
It was. It probably was. He had that mask on and everything. You saw the pictures. Social distancing from Thaddeus Stevens.
It was a hell of a year for it.
I don't know if it's true or not, but go with it.
And but it's 1862 is also that pivotal year in the Civil War where, because you have the win at Antietam, and I'm calling it a win. I know some people call it a draw, but I think because of not just like the military impact that it had, but the political and just the social and the moral impact it had with the Emancipation being issued. Like, it is the turning point in the Civil War. It is when Lincoln was finally able to say, this is about slavery. It is not about states' rights.
Antietam was a total win. I mean, what was Lee's goal? His goal was to go into Maryland, to go into Pennsylvania, restock, stay there. He got his ass pushed back. Of course, it's a win. I mean, you go, casualty numbers was pretty close, but if you're going to judge casualty numbers, then that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The casualty numbers, obviously, it's the bloodiest single day in American history. There were 9 times as more casualties at Antietam than D-Day.
Yep.
And the same day. So people talk about D-Day.
12 hours of absolute just. Like, it starts at 5:30 a.m. It starts at 5:30 a.m.
Almost 32 casualties a minute.
Yep.
I mean, that's a shitty day. That's a bad day. So they push them back, and like we were saying on the podcast, they lose that. I mean, 1862 was the opportunity year for the Confederacy. There's no doubt. You finally got Lee in charge. June 1st, 1862, Lee takes over after 7 days. He gets all those victories. He's got the momentum. The Union military command is a fucking clusterfuck at that point.
Yeah.
They're going through general after general after general. Lincoln's having problems with his own cabinet, with Halleck and Stanton, as some helicopter flies over friggin'
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah. You know why? I'm talking about the Confederacy. They're sending troops coming to get me now. Maybe they're attacking again.
They could be.
But that makes sense.
It's the Canadians.
I've got my musket, so I'm safe.
It's the Canadians. It's us. We're coming to invade.
Damn Canadians, I'm telling you.
Invading with our fucking Tim Hortons and poutine.
And Justin Bieber. Let's not forget about him.
And True Daddy.
True Daddy.
We don't talk about Bieber in this country. He's a shame.
Yeah. Speaking of a shame, and we're going to go off topic real quick. That story about you had a Montreal Canadiens jacket?
Yeah, I did.
You, David.
Yeah, I did.
Of all friggin' teams.
I didn't want Maple Leafs.
But Bruins? Couldn't do Bruins?
I don't think Bruins was available at the time.
Didn't you have like Bruins alumni from your town?
Oh, I know.
Right?
I know. My mother, anyway. my mother bought it. That's all you need to know.
Oh God! Old mom move. A credit card. Buying starter jackets.
I was 13.
Anyway,
I shit out of that jacket for 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. But so.
And thank you for listening to the latest Rail Splitter episode too.
This episode of What Was Mary Wearing back in junior high school, Ontario.
Jacob said, "Oh, hey Jacob, an invasion of Tim Hortons sounds amazing." Jacob, you run with that. I'm a bad Canadian. I can't stand it. I hate their coffee.
See, here's the thing, right?
Hate their coffee.
I'm drinking Dunkin's Porter coffee beer right now because it's 10 in the morning, and coffee beer, I guess. Dunkin' Donuts is so better than Tim Hortons, and in Dunkin' Donuts, that isn't saying much. Dunkin' Donuts is no picnic either. But Tim, you know, so I found myself in Maine a year or so ago, and I had never been to Tim Hortons. And I have some friends who swear by it, like Heckman loves Tim Hortons,
Oh, he
right?
is. And I you know
Right?
what? I love that he loves Tim Hortons. I tell Heckman all the time, like I've said to him, I'm like, everything I don't do as a Canadian, he does. So we balance that out for each other.
Yeah, it's like cliche, but
Yeah.
but I went there. I stumbled myself in there one time, and not good. It was very disappointing. Like I think I had like a coffee and like an egg and cheese sandwich, and it just
Oh,
wasn't that good. It
ew,
was it was
David.
it was well, I mean, people talk about it like it's the
Yep.
second coming of whatever. I mean,
Oh
oh my
yeah, they
God, Tim
do.
Hortons,
It's
it's
always lined up. To have one of those as a franchise is bank. Like
it's well, it's like Dunkin's here in Massachusetts, where there's a Dunkin' Donuts every goddamn corner here, and
Roger is my hero. Tim Hortons is garbage. We have one in Zanesville. Yes.
yeah, Zanesville, that's Ohio.
Yeah, I know where that is.
Yeah, yeah. Tim's coffee is terrible, good for the donuts. Yeah, Allie, you know what? In my defense, I didn't have a donut. I had a sandwich, so maybe she's right. Maybe I need to go back to
Yeah.
goddamn Maine.
Yeah.
Next time I find myself at Ontario, maybe I'll get a donut.
Jen, dude, honey crullers are amazing. Yes, when you're in Ontario, I will take you to Tim Hortons just so you can say you've been to a Canadian Tim Hortons.
Oh, this okay deal. But how the hell are we talking about this, by the
I
way?
don't get you
Um,
decided to go off the I don't know. How do we get
I've
talking
had
about
like
any of the
half
shit
a
we talk
beer.
about?
I'm already talking about the Blue Man Group, for God's sakes. I had one beer.
But that's what these are about. They're just a bunch of like Civil War geeks hanging out, having a conversation on Saturday morning. We went into this thinking it's going to be a wrap up from, kind of like a post game show, but we've been finding with these Facebook lives, every single one's been different. It just the conversation goes wherever. Like, yeah, we usually talk about the Civil War, but sometimes we talk about life in general too. And yeah, we love that. Like, well, there's 12 people watching. We love that. When people come on and they interact with us and ask questions and get involved in the discussion and all that, like that's really what the other thing we wanted to do with this podcast is create a community where people feel like they can nerd out over the Civil War and not be like shamed for it, or nerd out and not be worried that someone's going to be like, you're wrong, or that opinion is wrong. Like that's the last thing.
Yeah.
Jacob said, Ohio only has a very limited amount of Tim Hortons. The coffee is the best, but Krispy Kreme has my North Carolina heart. Krispy Kreme's pretty good.
I'm gonna do a disagreement on the coffee. It wasn't that good. I mean, maybe I had a bad batch.
Each to their own on coffee. I mean, I'm a coffee snob. Like, I grind the beans every morning and all that. Like, whatever. I know you do your thing with the whatever the Keurig.
I do my thing
with the Keurig. What? With the Keurig for your coffee in the morning.
I don't do a thing with the Keurig. What the hell are you talking about?
That's how you make your coffee.
I make
That's
coffee.
I know. That's what I was trying to
science experiment.
That's what I was trying to spit out.
But like, what the hell do I do with my Keurig machine?
Oh, Jen, I'm alone at work and this is nice company. Also, that's why I dip in and out of the conversation. Jen, that's awesome. Thank you for joining us.
Definitely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Starbucks is good. I mean, it is. It just is. I mean,
yeah.
I like to go to Starbucks and put my different Civil War general names so they can call them up and
Yep. I'm gonna start doing that. The first one I'm gonna do is Clara.
Well, I told you should do Clara. The one it was funny last summer was I used to use Cadmus for Cadmus Wilcox. That was my go-to name. So they go, latte for Cadmus, and people look.
You got to do Oliver sometime. You got to do Otis. You got to do Howard, and you got to do Joshua and Lawrence. So you got to do Joshua and Lawrence.
Yeah.
You got to do that for Jessica.
Yeah, that's true. I've done Moxley. I've done all. But so one time, I always did Cadmus. So I went in there one time, and I didn't use the app. So I went in there and ordered it, and I used the name Moxley. And the woman at the counter goes, "I thought your name was Cadmus." I started laughing. I was like, "God."
I'm actually gonna do the feminized form of Oliver sometime, Olivia.
I think you'd be a good Olivia. You should do it.
Yep. So I got Clara, Olivia. Actually, I probably would do Oliver just for shits, whatever. Bell.
Jacob.
Bell
Pete's
Boyd.
coffee's right. He's right about that. Pete's coffee's actually really good.
Pete. What is Pete's coffee?
It's
what
just
is that?
coffee. Or Pete's.
No.
Really?
What is this demonry that I don't know of?
Demonry? What the hell? What kind of... This episode of Mary's Thesaurus is brought to you by the province of Ontario.
Fucker.
Oh, wow. Anyway,
Bird number one of the show.
yeah, number one. So. All right, so 1862. Do you want to fucking do that again?
Um, Sorry, I'm just putting my beers out of the sun so they don't get warm, because warm beer sucks. They're sours though, so it's like drinking juice. Yeah, like 1862, obviously, like shitty year, but and then you have the defeat at Fredericksburg at the end of the year, but you have the emancipation and all that, so it's kind of, it's just. But 1863, the Civil War is a total, like, the game has been changed in that.
Well, it's almost like every year, the Civil Wars, it's almost like 4.5 different years if you think about it.
Yeah.
61 was kind of like the beginning of a football game. You're feeling out the other team. Nothing really happens.
Yeah, everything's a clusterfuck.
And then 62, you have the wars in the West, and then you have Lee coming on. You have the 7 days. You've got Manassas. You've got Antietam. That's the big run here. 63, I think I don't want to say overrated, but it's got Gettysburg in it, so everyone looks at 63.
Yeah.
And it's got Chancellorsville, which is arguably Lee's greatest. Although I think Fredericksburg probably was.
Chickamauga, Chattanooga.
Yep. Drop a C word at 10:22 for the first time. Chickamauga.
Chickamauga. Chickamauga.
Next week on our podcast, it is going to be the Fincher Show. As it's going to be talking about Chickamauga as told by Chickamama, and we'll see how that goes.
God.
But I think going back to Antietam again, I think we talk about the what if thing, and we talk about how history could have changed, and people in the Civil War nerddom that we all are a part of don't like to do the what if game.
I love doing the what if game.
But that'll get your ass banned on certain Facebook sites. You know who they are.
Oh, okay? I do. The biggest what if, I think, from Antietam is what if Hill had not showed up? What if Hill had not showed up and been like, hi, bitch, to Burnside? Like,
well, for those, for those, I can use some headset. It's a pain in the ass. But if, for those who don't know, or, who the hell knows, doesn't matter. But A.P. Hill is at Harper's Ferry, and he's left behind basically in timeout by Stonewall Jackson to guard the prisoners of all the 12,000 Union prisoners they caught. And finally, he decides he's going to come. He's going to go. He's coming to Antietam. So he marches full speed, gets his guys, and he's got a lot of solid troops there. And he basically stays. He arrives right at the nick of time, right? Hollywood Central casting. He arrives right as Burnside is about to get to Sharpsburg, get behind Lee, and basically end the war. He really does. So we talk about those reasons why Hill had come out of Harper's Ferry, and you assume it's because of military strategy and all this. And we talk about it in the podcast, and I think it might be one of my favorite Civil War stories of why he came out.
It's hilarious.
And just to rehash, so there are 3 reasons. First, he'd been arrested by Jackson for dereliction of duty.
You said it.
I did. I didn't. It took me 5 times in the podcast.
Look it up. Gold star to you, Weeks.
Okay. Which Mary's been arrested for dereliction of duty on a few different occasions, by the way. Probably Tim Hortons related, realistically.
For not liking hockey.
No, I wish I had a Canadian jack. So many goddamn.
I'm a mystery.
You're an enigma wrapped in a riddle. Confused by a paradigm. And so Jack, where the hell is? So Hill, he's leaving Harper's Ferry for 3 reasons. One, he's been arrested for dereliction of duty. They said it again, and he wants to prove himself to Jackson. So he's like, I'm going to go and prove myself. The second one is he was engaged to the then wife of George McClellan. Okay, and her name was Mary, ironically. So she was. And so basically, he wants to prove to him why maybe he chose the wrong guy type thing. So it's just a bravado. The
reason they didn't get married is because he got gonorrhea in New York, and her mother did a whisper smear campaign all over New York.
Can you imagine? You're going to get married. You propose to someone, okay, and you decide to run to New York City, maybe go to a Yankees game for some reason, and oh shit, I got gonorrhea. The old gonorrhea excuse, and he comes back with gonorrhea from New York City, which would be a great band name, by the way, Gonorrhea from New York City. He comes back, and they don't get married. He proposes, what was it, 9 times to her by the time
Yep.
she's 25 years
9
old?
times.
9
Ferris
times.
Bueller.
So they don't get married. She ends up Hill is McClellan's roommate in West Point. And so it's the old he stole my girl type thing. I'm gonna go get
Yep.
him. And the third one is the fact that Ambrose Burnside owes him $8,000. And I think that's the funniest thing. So he thinks, I'm gonna go over to get him, I'm gonna beat him, and I'm gonna get my money.
Yep.
Bitch, where's my money? Where's my money? That's how it
He's
would have
standing
gone.
across. He's like, hey,
And so you think
where's
of the
my
fact
8
that
grand?
you think of the fact that, pride from the woman, money, and wanted to prove someone wrong, kept the Civil War going arguably for 2 more years. So you think about it. I mean, it's these stories that are so fun to think about. And this is the one that that you don't do it. Like, you really can't stand them. No fun allowed history people. Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Talk to the Facebook
Jen,
sites
thank you. So
who
appreciate
ban
what you
my
do.
ass.
Thank you. Yeah, and Jen, we today, I've showed Darren some of the art, the artwork that you gave me, which thank you again for giving me. It's Jen gave me a book of her, just a little album of her Inktober that she did for General Grant, and I was sending Darren pictures of it one night just to show him what you do. And so for just the crowd watching, Jen is an amazing artist. What she does is amazing. She's also a really awesome person to hang out with. She's one of my very, very good friends. Definitely a soul sibling. We had a blast together. First time we ever met was in February, and it was like we'd known each other forever at that point. But she's into General Sherman. I don't know anybody else on this planet that knows more about him than her. And she does all this amazing artwork. We're actually going to have her do some artwork for the show, hopefully at some point.
Speaking of art, she does. Her stuff is awesome. To your
it
point.
Is.
And I bought my General Sherman face mask that she designed on Redbubble. So if you're on Redbubble, Jen, you should comment your Facebook, your website stuff, so people can see the stuff you do. Because I know you sell some stuff too.
She does some really.
$2. Where's my $2? That is a good movie, actually. The Paperboy movie.
What movie is that?
Oh God, I'm blanking on the name of the movie now.
$2. Where's my $2?
It's one of those '80s teenage ones.
It's not 16 Candles, is it? It's not. No, it's.
I think it's one of those John Hughes movies. She's gonna comment here in a second. She's probably pulling her hair out that we don't know it, but I know it, but I can't. I just can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm.
Oh my God, you guys! Oh yeah, Jen, we really appreciate what you do.
No, but you should see her. You should see her.
Yeah.
The stuff the picture of Howard she drew for you.
Oh my God.
Freaking awesome.
I would love that picture on our merch. But the other thing I thought about for that was having last week on the Facebook Live, or no, 2 weeks ago, we had Howard Hooker Hancock.
Better Off Dead.
Better Off Dead. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Amelia. Gabe ordered my Sherman mask, waiting patiently. That's awesome. So we had Howard Hooker Hancock. And I thought that would be an amazing t-shirt because we kept mixing their names up in that live a few weeks ago because we were talking about them all. But I would love to have Howard Hooker Hancock and just have their faces done in Jen's artwork style, on a shirt. I think that would be awesome.
I'm gonna talk to Jen about doing a little bit of Civil War Breakfast Club stuff.
Yeah.
You gotta think about that. We'll figure something out. Maybe we'll make a high level negotiation.
Yeah, between Jen and Jessica, I think we're gonna have some awesome.
Oh, Jessica's another one. Yeah, Jessica's another one.
Between those two, Jen Better Off Dead. Yep.
Nice. No, but Jen's art. Seriously, I raise my glass to her artwork. Her shit is incredible.
And she's one of these people that she humanizes the people from the Civil War too. Just what we're trying to do on the show and all that, 100% on the same page about that. And like I said, her knowledge of General Sherman is she's kind of my go-to person about General Sherman. It's really awesome. But yeah, Roger said humor and facts. The only thing missing, where's the booze? Oh, Roger, we are drinking booze. We have booze. I'm drinking.
Are we gonna tell them our secret about the fact we drink throughout the podcast?
Yeah.
We certainly do. Just listen by the end of it versus the beginning of it, but
Yeah, we drink all the way through. I usually manage 2 beers in these.
Well, he wants us to do a drunk history episode.
Oh, we're totally going to do that.
Kind of
that needs to be something I think we do when we hang out in person.
Mm-hmm. That'll be a Gettysburg one.
Oh yeah, total drunk history. There's a fucking beat.
We'll do a podcast from the Foursquare or one of those places.
Yeah. Yep. We'll definitely do a
Then
live from the Howard
that's
statue.
that's going to be the episode you sing.
I am not singing.
It'll
No. People do not need to hear me sing. That's no.
Anyways, all right. So we'll go back to where we were at. We were trying to remotely stay on topic of this, but why?
This is how these always go, right? There's a bee. It's gonna fucking die if it doesn't go. Oh my god! Fuck.
Well, don't swing at it because that's why it's gonna just ignore it. It'll fly away.
No, it doesn't. It wants to sit on me.
Sit on you. It must have heard about your singing skills.
Yeah, it probably did. That's why I'm not singing, because it'll attract all the bees and the cats in the neighborhood.
But we were talking about 62. We'll go back to that a little bit, trying to stay on topic till we go off the rails again. But I think
okay.
well, we were talking about the ramifications, the what ifs. That's where we got off topic.
Yeah.
So if they were to lost Antietam, they're coming off of the horrific Second Manassas, right? Now you got McClellan, who's in against all the cabinet's wishes. Lincoln's like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. So Lee kind of forces their hand by invading Maryland on the 4th of September, and it causes the Maryland campaign, which he wanted to do, and go into Pennsylvania and probably go to Atlantic City and the casinos, all the stuff he probably wanted to do. Realistic, But if they were to, but the morale in the Union was so bad at the time, both politically and militarily, the soldiers were happy because Mac was back. The whole Mac was back. They made Mac is back T-shirts, probably. Jen's probably great grandmother probably made those T-shirts for the Army because they were all excited about that. And then
that would be a great shirt too. Mac is back.
Mac is back.
And that
would be
that would be cool.
That I would.
1862 tour. Mac is back.
Mac. Yeah.
Look at us. I'm writing that down.
If only we knew somebody who did art. Only we did. Anyway, so if they would have lost Antietam, it would have caused a gigantic mess. We talked about Lord Palmerston in England was drawing up thoughts about getting involved in the war with one big Confederate victory.
Yeah.
So if you had a Second Manassas type battle where it ended up with the Union getting beaten that badly in northern soil, and then you see those pictures from Gardner showing up of the Union dead, I think that's fucking it. I think I'm telling you, I'm gonna call it right now.
Yeah.
That's the end. That's the end of the war. I think that's the beginning of the end if they lose Antietam.
Yeah, I agree.
For the Gettysburg people, I get it, and the Vicksburg people and Atlanta people, you got it. But those don't happen if Atlanta loses.
I agree. I'm a Western theater girl, and I do think in 1863, Chickamauga and Chattanooga were were huge turning points in the Civil War, because getting Chattanooga opened up to the heartland of the Confederacy. It allows Sherman to get to Atlanta, and then it allows him to get to Savannah. But none of that could have happened without Antietam, because if you go in and you see those photos displayed in New York, and especially if it's a loss, but not
especially with gonorrhea running wild in New York at the time.
We got to have an AP Hill shirt. There's got to be like what you were talking about.
AP Hill, and then it'll say "got gonorrhea?" ? Like got milk.
Jen says, "Oh my God, gold! That's about the Mac is back 1862 tour."
That's gotta happen.
That's happening.
Has to happen. Oh
that's
my
happening.
God.
Speaking
There's
of
like 3 things in my life I know for sure. That's one of them.
That is like Mac is back.
One of them. Mac is back. With that look, that picture he has, with the smug face he has with his hand in his pocket.
Yeah, I also want one of like Barlow dressed up with sunglasses, like what you did.
Barlow or Howard?
But Barlow in the 11th Corps and Howard in like.
Oh, that, you mean the band picture?
Yeah. But I want one with like Howard in it too, like the 11th Corps gangsters.
11th Corps, absolutely. Oh God, gross. God, gonorrhea. Can you imagine wearing that to the beach? That'd give him a spook down here in old Cape Cod, walking to the beach with that T-shirt on. I don't know who that man is, but he's got gonorrhea.
I think another funny shirt with AP Hill, and you talked about doing this as a meme, would be, so AP Hill He's got like McClellan's wife on his side. He's got $8,000.
He's got the money and he's making it rain. And you got Jackson in the background all pissed off, stuck in a tree.
Perfect. Jen Barlow.
With his one arm raised for his balance while sucking on a lemon. They don't talk about this in the Gettysburg podcast. I guarantee you that.
I don't think anybody talks about this.
No, I don't think so either. But,
oh my God. Yeah, I love Barlow. Barlow and his like, you know, I say A.P. Hill is the Barlow of the Confederate Army because he always had that plaid shirt on, just like Barlow had the plaid shirt on. And the hilarious thing about Barlow is he carried this big sword with him. And what he would do is he would go find the people that were slow and he would whack the back of their legs.
I
can tell. What?
He probably whack them in the butts and they say, well, am I in trouble?
Yeah. Am I in trouble, Barlow?
God.
I can tell you if Barlow did that to me, that would get old real fucking quick.
And hit the ass with a sword? I think so.
I'd be like, dude.
You know.
But then he'd be like, hurry the fuck up, as he's got his boombox on his shoulder.
That's probably what slowed him down, you know. Hit the boombox. He's probably playing Missy E to piss everybody off. That one annoying song that never ends.
Oh, Can You Work It? Is that the one you're thinking of?
I don't know. You're asking the wrong person.
I like her. I kind of like her. She's cool. That's totally their theme song. One of hers.
Is it? That one.
I don't know. I'm not up on my rap.
No, me either. Like I said before, Vanilla Ice, and that's it for me with rap.
Eminem, Beastie Boys, and Missy Elliott.
Beastie Boys is the best. Eminem, Beastie Boys. And I never really got into a rap phase.
I saw Beastie Boys in concert.
Really?
Oh yeah. Cool. It was before the dude died, obviously, because they
really
don't anymore. Yeah.
It's like a weekend at Bernie's edition.
I love that.
He just sitting there. He was very quiet. He didn't say much.
I love that movie.
Oh, that's a good movie. Yeah. But okay.
Anyway,
so,
sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. I was going. What are you gonna say?
I was gonna say, so the one thing that I'm coming out of this Antietam research and Maryland campaign research thinking, and this is the one reason another reason I love doing this with you, is because, I find that what I thought before changes the deeper dive I do to it. I have come to respect McClellan a lot more than I once did. And that is because it was a genius move on Lincoln's part to put him back in command, because so you think about it, Second Manassas happens, and 3 weeks later, Antietam happens. McClellan manages to raise morale in that army. He manages to, I think, change how the quartermaster things are, all of that. And that army is the one that's going to win at Antietam, and basically, ultimately, it's going to save the Union, when you think about it. And McClellan did that. And Lincoln had a really good quote where he, and his cabinet was completely against him, and Lincoln just was he went rogue and was like, fuck this shit. I'm putting him back in charge.
Literally what he said. That was part of the potty's mouth address.
Yeah. So he puts him back in charge. Nobody wants him back in charge. And they went Antietam because of that. And it was a genius move on his part, because Lincoln said, he's not going to fight, but he can get them to fight. And he knows that.
September 2nd, 1862, that's the day of that cabinet meeting, when they get together, and there's in Halleck and Wells and Stanton think, this is the meeting we're getting rid of Mac. We're going to kick him out of the army.
Yeah.
He's going to work at the goddamn Clinique counter at the mall. He's not working at the army anymore. We're done. So they have that meeting, and all of a sudden, Lincoln says, "I'm not sending this guy to the mall. He's not going.
Yeah.
I want him in the army, but we need him to defend Washington.
Yeah.
He can't get in trouble there." But then Lee, 2 days later, invades Maryland.
Yeah.
And Lincoln's like, I gotta do it.
We got to do this. This has to happen. Amelia has a question. I missed why Burnside owed Hill the money. Is it a good story? Burnside invented a rifle, and I think he built a rifle works that he ended up selling when it went under. Burnside did. Yeah, he built a rifle, did not get the patent for it. Someone else stole it. So yeah, wow, Amelia, you're awesome.
But to be honest, I don't know why he owed him the money. I'm not sure anybody does. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
out there somewhere. But he owed him $8,000. $8,000's a lot of money back then.
Yeah,
And that's a lot.
in like I remember Martin talks about it in Fierce Glory, which is like that is it. Fierce Glory is right up there for Sears as far as books about Antietam go.
Mhm.
It's very, very good. Like talks about how like Burnside fell on hard times, and I'm guessing that's in reference to whatever the hell went down between him and Hill. I'm gonna guess it was a poker game gone wrong.
$8,000?
I'm gonna guess because then Burnside has to move in with McClellan for a while.
Yeah. I wonder if it was like a bad investment or something. Like he'd Bill invested money in something Burnside wanted to do, and
What, like an
I don't know.
island or something? Like an island, one of those islands you
Island
invest money in?
Island number 10, maybe island
Yeah.
number 11. He was trying to buy. I don't know.
Try and buy it as like some kind of property.
Maybe he lost all that money at the casino in Rough and Ready, Georgia.
And he'd borrowed money from Hill.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. No, that's a really good question. Yeah, that's something.
You know what? Why don't we see if we can find the answer?
Yeah, we'll find out, and we'll let you know what that is.
Yeah.
Why did Burnside owe Hill money?
Yeah. All right, Mary, that's on you. You can figure that out.
Thanks.
But I'm just going back to 62 again. You talk about the importance of it because I just can't imagine how life would have gone in that war if they lost that battle badly.
Mhm.
Lee is now camping in Maryland. You know, he kind of thought that he was going to get the state to flip, and it could have. Although a lot of the locals, when they saw the condition of the army, starving, eating raw green corn,
Oh God,
no shoes, you know, no Tim Hortons, all that stuff in that area.
no McDonald's, no Starbucks.
Can you imagine how long the drive-through line must have been with that army? 40,000 guys? And then some guy, and then what's going to probably happen is like, someone like Longstreet's going to order the wrong thing. It's going to come not plain. It's going to hold that line all up, and it's going to slow everything down even worse, realistically.
Yeah.
But can you imagine how if they were staying up there, because they would have kept going. It would have been
absolutely
like we call Gettysburg basically Antietam 2.0.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because it's basically you look at the Maryland campaign, you look at the Gettysburg campaign. There's all these different stepping stones that lead to the big battle, Antietam, Gettysburg. Like Maryland campaign, you got like South Mountain. You could even include like Second Manassas is one of those stepping stones because it's a loss, and it gives Lee the confidence to think like, I got these fuckers. They're mine. These bitches are mine.
Well, the confidence in the Confederacy was obviously very, very high.
Yeah.
But in the arrogance of Lee too, he thought he could do this. He immediately took thousands of his guys and said, "You know what? You got no shoes. You're sick.
Yep.
You stay back in Winchester, and we're going to go without you." And that's what ultimately happened. So they end up going to the Antietam. They get into with like 40,000 guys.
Yeah.
And they obviously take a huge loss, but the reality is if they would have pulled that off, and like we said before, the Union wins. They call it a tie. Some people in the South call it a tie, but it really wasn't. If the South had won, if Hill had come up, if everything had come up the way it was, and they drove them back, I think that would have been a tough situation. I can't imagine the Union surviving that. I think with the 1862 congressional midterms coming up, I think Lincoln would have started to look for an exit strategy. I think he probably would have.
Oh, absolutely, he would have.
He probably would have gone back to the deal where, you know what, you can keep your slaves. We're going to go back to that compromise in the West with the one state coming in, one state free, one state, slave. It probably would have gone right back to the beginning. But they would have had their probably. And this country today would have been like Europe. Would have been at least 3 countries. It would have been the North, would have been the South, and it would have been the West. Yeah. And it might have broken even more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would have been like, who knows what that would have done. Like it's crazy to think of, like, when you do the deep dive on these battles and you look at where the troops were, artillery replacements. Please don't die on the podcast.
Damn COVID.
You don't have COVID, dingus.
I got something inoperable, whatever the hell I have.
He said something for months, trust me. He said something since I met him in May.
See what happens. laugh when I wake up dead. Could totally haunt your ass. See, told you.
Told you, fucker.
Told you I was sick.
If you start to realize how important each of these wins is for the Union, you know, and how the, like, had it been lost, like what could have happened. And we'll talk about this next week when we talk about Chickamauga. Like, if Bragg hadn't been so fucking focused on his fucking cabinet drama and actually been listening to the reports, you know, from his cavalry, that it's like, we can get them, you know. But he's like, no, Polk is a fucker and he's trying to take over, and so is Longstreet. Doesn't bother to do anything about it, you know. Things could have gone very differently. Just like Atlanta, right? Like we talked about Atlanta.
Brad, you know what though, Brad was lucky to be in that. Yeah, don't worry, I'm not going to go up the spout, Jen. I'm going to try not to. I'm not going to give the ghost just yet. Although I see the light, I'm going to stay out of it.
Jen, he's been seeing the light since May.
Ever since B attack, B Ridge, which Mary still makes light of it. I don't know why the hell she makes light of it.
Well, so does Jay Price.
Oh God, Jay Price! Don't even get me going about her. She, you know, I think she wanted me to die. I think she was hoping. I'm just kidding. Maybe.
She's awesome.
Yeah,
she usually joins us for. She usually joins. She's we call Jen Price is another Jen. We call her and Jen Rolling the Jen squared.
J2. No.
Oh, Amelia said I study patents and tech transfer, so I can't help myself putting that together with the Civil War side interest. That's awesome. And that's another thing about the Civil War too, is you can kind of go off and do these side things and find out some really interesting things. That actually reminds me of something. So thank you, Amelia, for that. So Letterman is the surgeon. Am I getting that right? For
Jonathan Letterman?
Yeah. The one thing he is using at Antietam for the first time is the Rosecrans wagon to bring the wounded. And I think he can fit 10 per wagon. And this greatly improves getting troops back to where they need to be with what they set up, which was basically the first time a triage system is used.
Well, Letterman is the father of the triage system.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the one.
Yeah, and he's using, and Rosecrans, and Amelia, I'm sure you know this, Rosecrans invented like the Rosecrans wagon, which was used in the hospitals and all that, like and during
It's
battles.
A coincidence it was named after him. That was his name. They had a wagon already named after him. Kind of like Burnside's Bridge we talked about.
Yeah,
what are
the
the odds?
Already named after him, right?
No. But you think about it, that triage was obviously very important. Camp Letterman at Gettysburg was kind of where a lot of people kind of really focus on the triage system. But triage, of course, is determined by your injury, whether you're going to die, whether you need to be treated immediately, or you got some time.
Yeah.
With my cough, I'd be he's dying. See him.
This is what I put up with.
And you make light of it. And that's the thing, is you make light of it. I don't even know who you are anymore, to be honest.
You make light of my math degree.
You're the one who said you had a PhD in it.
I don't have a PhD. For the record, I do not have a PhD in math. If I have a PhD in math, the apocalypse is nigh upon us.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm math, God's sakes. I'll sit with math, but that's pretty cool about the patents and tech, though. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's actually is legit cool. But
yeah.
But Letterman, he's the man.
Yeah.
He's related to David Letterman. I don't know if there's any relation with that.
I was thinking that actually.
How many Lettermans could it possibly be?
Probably.
Well, there's two that we know of.
Yep.
At least two.
I'm sure they are related then, because that's
totally
a thing, right? No, I don't.
Well, let's just go with that. It's true. They're related.
Yeah.
So don't look it up. It's true.
On the medical side of things too, this is where Clara Barton.
Oh, we're bringing in Clara now. I was waiting for you to introduce Clara Barton.
Bringing in Barton.
Who we've discovered has dated Howard. Not really, but we're going with that too. It was a picture we made.
I posted a picture of Clara Barton and Howard at Niagara Falls. We were trying to start a nasty Civil War rumor.
Yeah.
Jesus.
The stuff you come up with.
Oh, the banging Barton.
And that's why we got the E next to our name of the podcast.
Yep. No, but this is where Clara Barton makes her appearance. And in Fierce Glory, again, highly recommend it. Look at me, book enabling. Martin talks about like her background and stuff. And you know, she always had a fascination with like medicine and all that, and she was such a like independent free spirit. I remember learning about her when I was 7 years old. I'm like, this lady is one of my heroes here. um so the cool thing about well, it's not cool, but one of the things that happened to her at the battle is as she's giving a soldier a sip of water, a bullet goes through her blouse and actually kills the soldier. She wore that blouse for the rest of her time in the Civil War. And she's just like, the stuff she did, bringing them supplies and all that. She camps with the soldiers the night before the battle, and she's up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. She's up before Lee, apparently. But just like what she did was like, she's such a fucking badass. That woman needs to be on money.
Well, you could look at, I mean, not just Clara Barton, but people like Dorothea Dix and all the people who came after her. And that, you know what, that's one thing that I think is extremely, extremely underrated is the nurses in the Civil War. I was stumbling around one day at the Farnsworth Beer Garden at Gettysburg. I found myself back in Gettysburg again.
Imagine you stumbling around in a beer garden.
So judgmental. So judgmental. Anyway, so I was in the beer garden, and there was a bunch of Civil War nurses, dressed in nurses. And of course, I was curious, so I'm like, what's up? They were a group of Civil War reenactors of nurses.
That's cool. I've thought of doing that,
cool
actually.
That?
I've thought of reenacting as a nurse, because that's something that's always interested me. Somebody do that.
I can only imagine being shot and then you immediately give me the finger right up to make me feel better.
But, how are you feeling? Oh, I'm okay. Okay.
Oh, you broke your fingernail? Go into the light. Just go.
There's Amelia's got another comment here. Didn't know this about Letterman and the Rosecrans wagon. Sibley tent is another good example. Sibley and later his family actually had to give up their royalties from the U.S. Army because he joined the Confederacy. I did not know that. That's cool.
Those are part of the property. Part of the property transfer that they see the property. Yeah, Sibley tent.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Wow. Wow, Amelia, you rock.
Now Clara Barton is buried about an hour from where I am right now, just outside of Worcester, Mass.
I want to go see her, actually.
Let me bring up there.
I don't see her.
We can see her gravestone. I don't know if you want to see her.
Well, I'm gonna see Clara.
You can shovel if you want.
Hang out with Clara.
Jacob
said, just a fun fact, Clara Barton's first major work with her Red Cross was the Johnstown flood. Interesting. That's cool. Jen says, do it, be a nurse. Also really loving the chat facts. Oh, just want to say thank you to everybody who's watching and commenting. Like as I said, like, we always learn something from our listeners and the people that are watching in these Facebook lives. Like, this is just like, everybody on this is a wealth of information, and that's what we want. Is we want people to like come on here and just not feel just talk to us like we're not, like, how we are on here is how we are in person. Like that.
There's definitely a segment of the Civil War population that I don't want to say is pretentious, but more judgmental. And I think if anything comes out of this podcast, it's that it's a community where people can get together and just shoot the shit and talk about. There's no wrong answers. If you think that Jackson and Gettysburg would have been a thing, fucking knock yourself out. No one cares.
Exactly.
Just talk about it because it's fun. It's fun discussion. It's fun to talk about.
It is.
And there's no right or wrong. It's just that's just the way it always was. And I know there are some places that are a little bit different, but we have fun with it because as you drill down into these people and talk about some of the stories about even the Hill story with the money and all that, that's the stuff that's kind of cool. It's fun to humanize and personify these people.
Yeah, they're not just dots on a map, right?
And that was one of the first things we talked about a million years ago.
Yep.
We came up with this podcast, drunken on a balcony at the Gettysburg,
Yep. Yeah, this podcast was born out of virtual beers. Me sitting in Goderich, Ontario, and Darren in Gettysburg was when we decided we were like, so these conversations that we're having right now with you guys, this is how when we hang out and have virtual beers, this is the shit we talk about. Like, and we were like,
this is a typical Darren Mary phone call right here, is what this is.
Yeah.
But it's true though. It's just one of those things where, it's always welcoming because no one, like we say all the time, no one knows everything.
No.
Nobody was there. Nobody's a Union soldier. Nobody's a Confederate soldier. Some of the most staunchest Confederate fans I know are from here, from the North. And they defend it. And that's fine too. I've heard it all. But I
Yep.
mean, I think it's one of those things where if you really want to, you know, learn about this stuff, learn about the people, read the diaries, learn about the soldiers. Don't assume so and so's right. Just understand any book you read, Fonz, Coddington,
Mm.
Sears, Gelzo, any of them, they've got their own spins, they've got their own
Yep.
agendas. Don't read, question what you read, and look at the stuff and have fun with it. And you know what? This whole thing, we do it because it's fun, right?
Yep. Yeah,
That's the whole point
and
of it.
we've met so many awesome people through it and learned from them. And the other thing too is like the Twitter community that is growing up around this has been, it's like, wow, it's been amazing. And like, yeah, Gabe is part of that community. Jen definitely is. Jacob, I think, have I seen Amelia on Twitter? I think I have. Maybe
Yeah.
not. Amelia, if you're on Twitter, join in our discussions that we have, because God, you know your shit, girl. Um, she does.
Yeah, I'm not absolutely
Yeah.
does.
Jen, make it compelling and fun. Absolutely. Yeah, that's, and Jen and I talked about, I think Jen and I talked about that at Sherman's birthday, and her and I were having so much fun. Like with our mutual friend Chris, he portrays Sherman. We were having so much fun the entire night. Like it was such a great time, and we were telling all these Sherman stories and giggling and laughing, and it was awesome. Gabe said through a cursory search, it's speculated that the debt to Hill was a gambling debt. That's what
Makes sense. That's
yeah,
right. I mean,
that
we
makes
figured it was
perfect
something.
sense.
That's why they went to Atlantic City. We were saying. You laughed at me,
Bingo.
but I'm telling you,
It was some Sopranos level of poker that they were playing that night.
probably. I mean, it was something like that. But you got to think about the fact that he's thinking, "Shit, this is my last chance to get this money from him. I know he's there. I'm going
He's
to get
probably
it."
thinking,
I mean,
that fucker, I'm getting it.
I mean, but these are the stories that are fun, though. I mean, honestly, like we said before, this stuff doesn't happen. It's not that long ago, and you
Yeah.
can look at the fact that these people. You know, we were talking to our friend Matt Callery, who runs the fantastic Addressing Gettysburg podcast.
Yeah, if you haven't listened to Addressing Gettysburg, find it on iTunes, Podbean.
Yep.
Matt is a great down-to-earth guy. He's so much fun, and he does a great podcast. It's Gettysburg focused, but I have learned so much. Like he has the Rangers on, and it's just such down-to-earth
We're gonna have
conversation.
Rangers on. Have Rangers on.
I'd like to
We're gonna have my friend. We're gonna have one of my Ranger friends on
yeah,
one of
I'd
these
like to
days.
do that. Fucking be.
But he talked about, we were talking about a couple nights ago, you know, the guy who owns the property we have to walk past to get to Lost Lane, which, you know, at Gettysburg, you know where Lost Lane is.
Yeah.
He might have been the guy I met that night at that bar, actually. We were talking about that. But he was a guy who was an old guy, and he was at the reunion in 1938, the 75th reunion, when they dedicated the peace line when FDR was there, and he met Confederate soldiers.
Yep.
And so if you meet a guy like him, you're meeting a guy who was talked and
there.
hung with. I mean, so it wasn't a long ago. It really wasn't. It really, really wasn't. So the Snooty folks didn't like us much, but Fairfield loved us.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah, we got
Was
in
that
trouble
when
for we got in trouble for being a little bit too loud at one point, and we were
Is
like,
that when you were firing up those cigars?
yes. Oh yeah, we did cigars after. That was amazing. Like it was so. I'm like,
Oh
I'm
God,
gonna
I love cigars. Love
park-
cigars.
So do I. I love them too. I hadn't had one in a while, and I was like, I'm smoking cigars with General Sherman. This is awesome. It was such a perfect end to the night. So you got some comments here. Jacob said, you all should do a Gettysburg field trip with all of us. I'd definitely go. Yeah, we're definitely going to be, definitely going to be going out to different battlefields. We're aiming for Chickamauga once the border's back open and I can travel again for next fall, possibly. So we definitely want to like, obviously hang out with you guys because that would be cool.
Well, we're definitely going to do Gettysburg as soon as the border opens.
Yeah.
And
As
then,
soon as the border's open, it's safe for me to travel.
And what do we say? Like next fall, we'll do
Chickamauga.
Chick Chat.
Yeah, Chick Chat next fall. Amelia said, I'm on Twitter. Awesome. Yeah, Darren and I are actually like, so we have our Civil War Breakfast Club account on there, but then Darren is on there as Darren J. Weeks. Highly recommend following him because he's hilarious and he
sucks. He sucks. Bad follow. Don't do it.
He's my go-to Civil War guy. That's why I'm doing this podcast with him because he knows just more about it than
she's the one who knows it. Trust me.
No. But anyway, he's a lot of fun on Twitter, and I'm on Twitter as Civil War Fangirl. So, and we just like to have fun with it on there. We're constantly posting Schitt's Creek gifs with our stuff too because we love the show Schitt's Creek. So we just fun with it and like we love to interact with people and all that.
And those gifs were going on before the show really got really crazy popular too.
Oh, it did.
Especially you were posting those Alexis ones.
Oh yeah, I started doing that, and I'm like, I love this. This is great. Jen said it was perfect. Yeah, that whole evening was just like right from the moment I saw her in Sherman House to the end of the night was just like it was perfect. Jen and I met in person for the first time in Sherman's house where he was born,
Oh
which
wow,
was you couldn't ask
that's
for a
pretty cool.
more perfect meeting for the two of us. Um, Jen said she'll be able to go too. Awesome. Amelia said, it's really the stories and the narratives that are the most compelling to me. Thank you for making it fun. Oh yeah, you're welcome. And thank you for joining Amelia too. Like you guys make it fun too. Because we'd love for you to come on here and just like hang out with us and have, whether you're drinking coffee or beer, it doesn't matter. Like,
See, well, I think is we've talked about this, Mary, a million freaking times now. Is I think it's fun to be able to talk about this and be able, and just in a fun environment. Because I think
yep,
in
yep,
real life, outside of the social media, at least for me and you too, I know you
yep.
you talk about this. There's not a lot of people around
No,
to talk to about this.
no, you're about
And,
the
and
only one I have
no,
inside of
you're the
like,
only one. You know,
yeah.
I mean, I quote Civil War Gettysburg Address stuff in work meetings and I get stared at.
Oh, I do too. I
You
call
know,
myself because I do a lot of like, so I work at a library and I'm like I'm a collections clerk. So I look after the collection we have at this library admin office I work at, and it's not a public collection. It's basically all the older books that we have that we keep there until we end up having to discard them, unfortunately. But I have to like, I call myself like the chief engineer. So I'm like the General McPherson of the library because I got to go in and like figure out how to make stuff fit when I get too much back of like too much comes back. So I got to figure out how to move stuff around so it all fits. So I try to
oh,
bring the Civil War into my everyday life too.
but I mean, it's nice because I mean, I assume a lot of people who are on this or people we know are part of their local Civil War roundtables.
Yep.
You know, and if you're not, you should totally be on. I know Gabe does the one in El Paso.
Yeah. Yeah. Gabe is on Twitter too. So if,
And definitely you
yeah,
definitely follow him on Twitter because he's
he's,
got some cool stuff. It was
yeah.
a good conversation we had yesterday about the all that stuff we were talking about yesterday. We
Oh
talked
yeah.
so much stuff.
We were talking, so I think it was Gabe who posted, and he's El Paso Civil War Roundtable on there. He posted about the, like 4 bad generals and just got a good discussion going about that. And it was awesome. And then I did another post from our Civil War Breakfast Club account. It was about Perry, one of the guys that follows us. And I think he's a listener too, but he came up with the hashtag Civil War book enabling, and I'm like, let's run with this, and I said, I'm like, Perry came up with this, let's go. And people started posting these Civil War books they had read recently. And so then what I did is I went and I would retweet them with that hashtag. And it was just so cool to see what people were reading and what they were enjoying and all that. And, I was just like, yeah, I want to find out. Because I'm like the queen of the book enablers, apparently. Darren's the king of the
tell
book
me about it.
enablers.
I got a whole
Yep.
book. And Jen says, "Oh Lord, I'm the Civil War nerd at work too." Jen,
Yep.
just so you know, I had a Zoom meeting at work a few weeks ago. I wore a Kepi hat. I'm at the point now where no one even questions me anymore.
He sent me a picture of it. It
So
totally
me sitting there in
happened.
a Zoom with my Kepi hat on, and no one even says, "What the hell?" They just, okay, that's Darren. Screw it.
Yep. Oh yeah, I should like my space at work is decorated with like I kept all my Mort Kunstler calendars from the last few years, and it's like just a sea of like Mort Kunstler prints. So I got like the 54th Mass on there. I got Chamberlain. I got like Mary's Heights on there and all that. Like it's it's all on there. It's just a wall of geek, basically, of Civil War nerd. Got a few more comments.
I need to get a good Mary's Heights picture at work.
Allie said, I had no idea so many Schitt's Creek gifs existed. Yes. Yeah, you do need to get a Mary's Heights thing at work, Darren.
That's a going as far as the that goes. El Paso, sir. My round table is it's not virtual, it's a real one. It's a local senior center here where I live, and I am bar none by far period.com the youngest person in this meeting.
He is. I've seen photos.
It is fun. I'm one of the few people who stays awake the whole time, and I'm one of the few non-veterans of the Civil War in this club, actually, as a matter of fact. But I enjoy it because it's fun. It's fun to talk about the stuff, and they always have guest people on. Check your towns to see if you have one.
Yeah, I don't have one. I'm Canadian, so So Gabe, if yours is,
you could join ours.
Yeah. Could I join? Yeah, I want to join yours actually. Okay, cool.
The Cape Cod Civil War Roundtable. It's the coolest one.
Nice. I like that.
We at our Christmas party, we had buttermilk. We had overcooked steak for Grant. talk about a real fun group that was.
Oh my God. Yeah, Gabe said El Paso Civil War Roundtable. Oh, he said it's a virtual roundtable, so maybe that's another one you and I like. We could join that one too.
We should stumble into that one.
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah. So Gabe, can
And that is
anybody join? That's cool. Like I think the one thing that so I mean, obviously the pandemic sucks, but I'm actually coming out of it like a better, more positive, happy person. So I think 2020 is not, I'm going to consider it like a good year because of that, for many different reasons. But I think the one thing that 2020 is going to do, it's going to make people that have these roundtables like realize these need to be virtual. And we know like our friend Ed, who runs the Chickamauga Chattanooga Roundtable, which we've been to a couple lectures for that. And Ed is an amazing guy. There's actually a Facebook group for it called Chickamauga. I think it's Chattanooga or Chickamauga Chattanooga Roundtable on Facebook.
His name is Ed Lowe.
Yeah,
Good
he's
guy.
a cool guy. Yeah.
He kind of brought us in. We're probably gonna go to their whatever symposium thing they have at Chickamauga one of these days.
Yeah.
Gabe
said, I'm the member. Okay, well, you're not anymore.
That's sad.
There we go.
Well, we'll Mary and I
you.
will absolutely join your thing. Just let us know when we'll go on. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that would be cool.
But we also do the one, there's a Civil War Roundtable National Congress one that you and I are part of.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool. I'm too shy to join a roundtable. I'm not hardcore enough. Jen,
you do realize you're basically on a roundtable right now, right?
What all these meetings are is you have to go through the horrible initiation ceremony, which I don't even want to talk about, to be honest. Let's just say hardtack is the worst, least of your problems. But if you want to do it, in all seriousness, it's just all we do is you have guest speakers, you have authors. It's a lot of neat topics, and we've gone Zoom meeting with the with COVID, and seeing a bunch of 80, 90-year-old guys trying to maneuver through Zoom, which is always hilarious.
It is really funny being on some of these roundtables because I'm like, first of all, I'm like one of the only females, and secondly, I'm like looking at Darren and I'm like, my God, we're young, and you need to get more younger people on there. So Jen, like, I would really encourage you to try and join one. The fact you're on here with us, that's awesome. This is basically, I think, like a little bit like it's becoming like a virtual Saturday morning roundtable where we're not necessarily having guest speakers, but we're having, Jen, this is a roundtable. I think that's what it's becoming. I think that's what it's becoming. Like, but Jen, Jen, you've got you know more about the Civil War than you think you do.
Look at Jen sandbagging here. She's worse than you are.
Well, hey Leonard, and we've got Alan too. So hey guys, Jacob wants to join Gabe's roundtable. That's awesome.
I'm always willing. Yeah, absolutely.
All are welcome on Twitter. Yeah, no, Gabe gets some really good discussions going, and I've been trying to get those retweeted and stuff to bring other people into it too, because such great discussions I find are happening on Twitter now. The one about the books, the one about the generals. We had one about, was Antietam the most important battle in the Civil War? And there was a lot of different opinions flying around about that. That was really interesting too. Gabe, I turned 41 on Wednesday. Happy birthday.
Wow, happy birthday, Gabe. 41, huh?
Leonard Curtis, good morning from the Gibraltar of the Confederacy. And we have another Allie watching us too. Awesome. Wow, cool.
No, but I think any of these roundtables are really cool because all you do is, admittedly, we have more beer than any of the ones I've ever been.
Oh yeah. But any drinks are welcome at our roundtable. As you can see, I'm digging into my second one right now.
Second one, sure. But for the most part,
I drink a lot more since I met you, dingus.
Wow.
Jacob Fort Fisher. Oh, Leonard Curtis, Vicksburg. Oh wow, Leonard's in Vicksburg.
Vicksburg, yeah.
Cool. Wow, that's a place I have yet to visit.
Did it take you 9 tries to finally get there? So you could be a nerd.
Poor Grant and Sherman. That was Sherman's worst moment right there, Chickasaw.
Oh, absolutely was. Although Kennesaw was no picnic either for him.
No, but I mean, Sherman, whenever it came to looking at a fucking map, dude, estimate the terrain. He didn't. Poor guy. I love Sherman. He's my second favorite.
Yeah, he used to be the man there for a while for you.
He was, but hey, it's
Rowling's taken over the Sherman love now. She's got that all to herself now.
Yeah, she's balancing me out. Got Mike from Arlington watching. Gabe
Arlington, Virginia. Oh, I love Arlington, Virginia. Bad
so do
traffic.
I.
I found myself in Tyson's Corner in Arlington one time. I think it's near Arlington, but that's right in the Beltway traffic. That is the worst traffic in the world. It's worse than Boston, if that's even possible. But Arlington, Virginia is nice though. That's beautiful. You know?
Yeah, it definitely is. I love walking around Arlington National Cemetery. It's one of my favorite places to go.
Mhm.
I always go and say hello to Gibbon. John Gibbon's buried there. And Sheridan. In his grave, that all it says is Sheridan.
Pretty simple, yeah.
Which tells you all you need to know about that man.
They buried him in a shoebox, probably, right? 'Cause he was so little.
Probably. There's a really it's kind of a sad story about his Jen, I'm gonna go sit quietly over here. Oh, believe me, to sit and talk with Jen though, she's so much fun. Leonard, my ancestors were keeping Sherman out for 47 days. LOL, 38th Mississippi. That's great.
Pretty
you know
cool.
that. That's cool. I love the ancestry thing that happens. You know.
You know, people talk about Mississippi and they only talk about the 16th Mississippi. Company A, 16th Miss is all.
Yeah.
You know, the old Miss Brigade. So it's good to see somebody else talk about a different one.
Yeah, that's cool. So the Sheridan story is that when Sheridan was buried, I think when he died and was buried in Arlington, I believe General Grant was gone by that point. He was the first of the trifecta between Grant, Sherman, Sheridan that passed away. Unfortunately, he passed away from throat cancer. So Sheridan passes away. They bury him. And for hours after, there was one man standing at the grave and he wouldn't leave. And it was Sherman.
It wasn't Warren. That's a damn sure.
Fuck no, god damn.
Although I made me with General Warren as my Twitter profile picture today.
Yeah, I like that one of you. That's
yeah, that was a good. That was
a choice. When I saw it was Warren, I was like,
do you have any idea how hard that grave is to find?
I'm not shocked considering what Warren went through. Hey,
it's
Al.
harder than the Surround. Oh, Al's on. Al Pagno. Again, we mention Al all the time because he's the godfather of the fantastic Civil War Lampoon.
Yeah, if you guys join any Civil War page, join Civil War Lampoon. It is so much fun.
If you like to learn and have fun and not be pretentious, check it out. It's a lot of fun. Al does a great job with that. We just had a 3rd-year anniversary a few weeks ago. I can't believe.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Can't believe how long that's gone. I haven't been banned off the bandwidth from that from Zuckerberg just yet. Speaking of banned, Andrea hasn't been on for a while.
I know. Who the hell is my girl, Andrea? I need to get banned from a legit Civil War page. That's my goal.
Well, I can tell you a few.
I know how to do it
banned
too.
off of.
I'm gonna go on and start like talking up Howard. I'm gonna go on and just say, "First Corps retreated first."
Oh, that's it. That's done. Next time we're in the mine,
that and Howard called it, not Hancock.
Listen, the next time we're in the mine, you're gonna say that, and that's gonna be it. We'll probably never get to go to Gettysburg ever again.
Oh, Jen said, if you made a friend of Uncle Billy, you had a friend for life. Absolutely. Sherman, the one thing about him is he was, so he's got this like rough exterior, right? But the one thing that he always did is his men, especially the ones that were on the March to the Sea, if they fell onto hard times, they knew they could go to his house or wherever he was, and he would give them money. He would help them out. Like he was such a, like, you know, say what you will about him, he was probably one of the nicest guys on the planet, like nicest guys ever.
They did, I don't know if it was History Channel or it was one of those that Sherman one, which is really, really good. And it kind of showed the good, the bad, and the ugly with Sherman.
That one used to be on YouTube. I used to binge that. And there was one afternoon where I had a migraine and I was sitting watching it on my iPad and I sent it to Jen. I'm like, hey, have you seen this? Shit, you know what? She sends me a screen cap back. She's got it on too. We had no idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were like, I think pretty much at the same place in the documentary too. We hadn't told each other we were watching it.
Well, they do it. It does a good job because it talks about how we left the slaves behind. You want to take them.
Yeah.
You know, like we said before, the only criticism I really have of Sherman is the fact that he didn't liberate Andersonville in his march to the sea, and I think that's a bad look. And I don't, you know, the rest of the stuff he did, I don't care. If you want to burn every farmer in the land and knock yourself out, I mean, if he didn't do a Belichick and Brady, we're going to later. So you might as well just get it over with, you know. Yeah. But I mean, that's the one thing I think, as far as criticism, I would say would be that. I just think, you know, let's see. Oh, how Papa Mike looks. I always think of you guys. Well, Allie, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
And
yeah. OO is one of those guys that, you know, like I mean, for years I had Sherman as my favorite general, and I tell people it's like with General Grant. So like Sherman has not been demoted in my eyes. He's like General Meade. Howard just has now a
wait a
higher
second.
rank that I put for.
I heard because I read on Twitter that
Don't
me was
say it.
fired.
Don't.
You want to get Mary going? All you're gonna say is me was fired in the East. That's all you're gonna say.
How could he?
Look at her face. She gets so worked up.
But I don't get it. It's like, how could he be fired? And then what is Grant like? Don't worry, you can stick around, dude. It's okay.
Well, so happened to Pickett after Five Forks. He got
Fucking
fired.
Shad Bake.
And he just never left. He just
Okay. Pickett puts the shittiest guy in charge. He's like, I'm just gonna go for the Shad Bake.
Allison, was Sherman aware of the proximity of Andersonville? He was, because he had
absolutely was.
There were escapees, because what happened was
Yeah.
they, as soon as they were aware that Sherman was in the area, they started to move prisoners up to Florence, South Carolina. So there were escapees. That's when a lot of the guards, it got loose a little bit. So there were prisoners escaping, going into the Union line, going by, saying, "Hey, this is a big prison," and Sherman basically didn't want to hear it. He says, "We got to keep going."
Yeah.
So he definitely was aware of Andersonville. There's no question he was. He absolutely was.
Yeah, but it definitely was one of his.
But he figured, though, how am I going to? He didn't know. So it's 30,000 people at Andersonville, right? And they're all sick, and you got to imagine how they were at. How is he going to feed them? Because at that point of the March to the Sea, they had his supply line was gone. He had to live off the land. He barely had enough to feed his troops. He knew that, you know, he went down one hole, came out the other, as Lincoln said. He couldn't feed them. He had to. And that's a real sad part of the reality. But he absolutely knew. He absolutely did.
Yeah,
which
he
is
did.
too bad, but what can you do?
Yeah, there was also another case where there was this, I think it was where they were making munitions. I think it was Augusta, Georgia. He had a chance to destroy that, and he didn't. It is another one of his, like, kind of whatever he was thinking at the time. And I mean, Sherman was a genius militarily. His march to the sea was brilliant. The other thing too is, as he's going along on his march, so he has chosen the route of his march based on the tax sense, like the census of, I think it was like 1860. He's going through the areas where there's the most agriculture. But as he gets closer to the sea, the soil becomes sandier and there is less food for them. And Darren, you'll read about this when you read Southern Storm. Food becomes harder to come by. And that's what the troops start writing about. It's like, food is harder to come by now. So that's probably another thing that factored into it, is Sherman, like as you said, definitely knew that the food was hard enough to come by to feed all his troops. But as they got
he had
closer
no
to the
choice.
sea,
He did the same thing with the slaves. You know, he couldn't feed them, so he had to leave them behind. I mean, it sucks as it is to think that he left U.S. soldiers behind.
Yeah.
What's he gonna do? I mean, I mean, that had to have been a tough decision for him, and I'm sure he never wrote about it, he never talked about it, but that had to have been a tough one for him. But he had no choice. I mean, it sucks, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I think Sherman had to wrestle with a lot of demons on that march to the sea, and Jeff Shara does a good job of portraying him in his Civil War quadrilogy, which is about the Western theater, and the final book in it is about
quadrilogy.
Yeah,
what a merry word.
I invent words.
You do so. That was a good one. I remember that one. Quadrilogy.
So it's about the march to the sea, and there's this one part where a library gets burnt. I think it's in Milledgeville or something like that. And Sherman, his inner monologue is basically like, this is going to be on me someday, and it's either going to be good or it's either going to be bad. And he realized then that he was going to be seen as a demon in the eyes of some people. And I think that's definitely something he
knew that going back to '62 in Nashville, when he basically said to his guys, the only way to win this war is to take it to the people. We need to. We can't.
Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah. He's playing the mental game.
Yeah, because they're trying to win a war by getting to mentally disable the Northern will. We have to do the same damn thing. We have to go. We have to burn the farms. We have to. We have no choice.
Yeah.
And when he finally got a chance to do it, he did it. I mean, he walked the walk. That's for sure.
Yeah. Jen said, he needed to keep moving if his plan was going to work. Absolutely. He had to keep going, because time at that point was like, it was like, we got to do this. We got to end this, and the fact, like, those men that were on the march to the sea, like, he vetted them like hell. Like, they all had to be a certain, their health had to be good. Like, you're talking about, you're marching 15 miles a day. And he's cutting a swath through Georgia. It's a gigantic land shark, as Robert L. O'Connell in Fierce Patriot writes, which is the hands down to me the best Sherman bio. And I think Jen's read a few more Sherman bios than I have. She can probably recommend a couple others too. This 60-mile wide land shark is just cutting its way through Georgia.
I mean, and we talked about how Howard was the right wing commander, right?
Yeah, Howard's the right wing commander. Slocum is the left wing commander.
But the thing about it is the fact of the matter is, when you go to Georgia and you listen to these people down there talk about Sherman, I mean, how he talks about a demon he was. You know how many Southern lives he probably saved by doing that? I mean, if that war had continued for a couple of more years, how many more sons of the South would have died? And so when people talk about how, when I was down in Atlanta a few years ago, I heard it all. I mean, I was
Mike actually just commented. He's like, I grew up in Richmond. We were pretty square at the north. Moved to Atlanta. They were still pissed about Sherman. Oh yeah, I encountered some people from Georgia at Grant's home when I went on a tour, and the guy was like, I had Sherman on my phone case at the time. Unfortunately, the phone case is broken, so I can't use it anymore. So I got Abraham Lincoln now. I need to get a Howard one. And anyway, the guy was like, yeah, my great grandpappy's barn was burnt down by Sherman. And I'm like, I've heard this story before. like it literally, like, everything was burnt by him. The whole state was on fire. The other thing that people don't talk about is that when Lee invaded Pennsylvania in 1863, he did basically the same fucking thing as Sherman. But the other thing he did too was he captured African Americans, whether they were free or whether they had been former slaves.
Send them back to slavery.
No, the one thing that really pisses me off when it comes to Sherman's story is nobody talks about that. And that's one thing, like, it's like, if you're gonna rag all over Sherman, like, just, kind of realize what Lee did too, that they were doing the same thing up there, but they were putting people back into slavery that had never been slaves, that had been born free.
I never understood the hate for Sherman, and the unconditional hate for Sherman, and the unconditional love for Lee in the South. I know it's part of the whole lost cause. We could talk about a whole. That would be a good podcast. Just lost cause.
Yeah, lost cause, because it factors into so many different things.
Because you think about it, and like when I was sitting in a bar in Atlanta, wearing a Sherman T-shirt, being a dick. Okay, so I deserve what I got.
Did the same at a winery. I was being
okay. I was being a oh my god, smells like barbecue around here. Sherman back? I mean, I was being the way I, so no surprise. But I've said before, I go, what? If this thing continued for a long period of time, you would have lost a lot more.
Yep.
And before you get all worked up on Sherman burning your fucking barn, if you didn't fire on Fort Sumter, you wouldn't have had to worry about it.
Yep.
So SMD. And that's part of it.
Yep. As Sherman said, to the mayor of Atlanta, he's like, I didn't fucking start this shit show. You guys did. You think I want to be here right now fighting? No, I don't. But until you guys figure it out and surrender, and then Sherman said, like, then I will share the last cracker with you. I will help you. And the other thing people don't talk about is when he got to Savannah, he helped the citizens there. He made sure they had food. He treated them well. Sherman loved the South. We're talking about a guy that was the first headmaster of what eventually became Louisiana State University.
National champions, by the way. What happened to Ohio State last year?
I don't fucking know. They suck.
Same thing happened at Boston College. Jesus God.
Okay, we've got a few comments here. Jen, everyone loves Gone with the Wind, including my father.
Oh yeah.
My dad does not like Sherman. My dad likes Lee.
The vapors, sir.
Leonard Curtis, a good deal of the destruction of Georgia was Confederate inflicted to impede absolutely to impede Sherman's march. Yep, they did. And the landmines they planted. Allie, no one ever goes after Lee about that, and it can be so frustrating. Yeah, like no one, like Lee is like, you can't touch him. Like you can't say anything bad about him. He was a genius. My friend Brandon Marie Miller, she wrote a really good. It's meant for young adults, so it's not an overly detailed biography, but it is an excellent start biography for Lee. She lays it all on the table using his letters. It is not lost cause. She uses his words to illustrate his story, and it is so good. Like that is my favorite Lee biography.
And Allie talks about Confederates in the Attic, which by Tony Horwitz, who just died. It was surprising.
But that's a great book. Yep.
Yeah. But Confederates in the Attic is a great book, as is Bone Kemper's Lost Cause. Those two books. The Confederates in the Attic is really cool if you haven't read that. And I'm glad she brought it up because that's a book that you've read that, haven't you, Mary?
I haven't yet.
Or-
Someone's car.
Oh God!
Who the fuck has car alarms?
All this crime in Canada you have
There's
is causing
crime in
these
my
car
small
alarms.
town. It's because I live in fucking
Somebody has
Appalachia,
obviously
Ontario.
robbed, robbed one of the one of the Dunkin' Donuts up
That's
there.
worse than the fucking dog barking next door.
But going back to the whole thing with Confederates in the Attic, it's basically like 5 or 6 short stories. It's where the phrase "farb" comes from, which is fantastic.
Mm.
But it talks about
Corona.
the more modern stories about. It's about a guy who goes in the South. And it's a factual story about how the hatred in the South about the Civil War is still there. And it's about that subliminal second level back burner hatred that still is active, still going on.
Mm-hmm.
Don't buy it. You can read it. I'll give it to you.
Actually, I do have a copy of it. I got
Okay,
one from I got one from one of my colleagues actually.
Cool.
It came in. It's funny. It came in as a donation. It came in for a book sale, and I remember she emailed me and she's like, "Do you want this book?" And I'm like, "Yes."
But it's a really good book. Edward Bonekemper's The Lost Cause is really good. It's kind of like the complete opposite of a Douglas Southall Freeman book because it basically just pisses all over him. Yep. Anyone tried Tony Stein? I've not read Spying on the South. It sounds pretty good.
Jacob said Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Spying.
Yes. It's a Louisiana. Go Tigers. Yes, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
I was happy to see LSU, and I love the fact that, like many of colleges in the South, the LSU Tigers nickname comes from a Civil War regiment under Hayes, Louisiana Tigers, who fought July 2nd at Gettysburg, which is a cool thing. But I was happy. I have a good friend of mine who's a big LSU fan, so I was very happy. I have an LSU hat.
Ooh.
Purple and gold, man. Awesome.
Jacob said a certain Albert Jenkins helped Lee do that on the way to Gettysburg. He then had the education building named after him at Marshall U, my school. It was recently decided to change it. Leonard said, did my paper in law school on whether the March to the Sea was a violation of international law of war. Wow, that's awesome. Amelia, I'm from Louisiana, so the Tigers. Leonard decided his conclusion was it was not. Gabe, it's polite crime in Canada. Yeah, we say sorry. Like,
sorry, can I break into your car?
Sorry. Yeah, like
he's probably steal one of those Anne Murray CDs out of that car.
Probably, yeah, that's what we steal. Like, we go after the Anne Murray CDs. Anybody read Tony Horowitz's last book, Spying on the South? Leonard said Sherman's orders and actions complied with international law. Yep, absolutely they did. Gabe, I started a few months ago. I'm in the habit of reading 3 books at a time, so I've not yet finished it.
We just talked
join
about
the club
that.
of the ADD readers.
Fincher, we just talked about that, about how you can read multi-books at once. I can't do it.
But it takes me forever. Like, I've had a General Warren biography going on for a year.
I've started, you know what though? In full disclosure, I started to do that. So I'm reading John Wilkes Booth's sister memoir by Asia, and I'm also reading that endless Vicksburg book.
Like the campaign that never fucking
by
ends.
Groom, that goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do that too. But I can't read more than one at a time. But there's a lot of good ones. Confederates in the Attic's are really good. I can't believe you haven't read that yet.
Yeah, no, I need to. It's on my list, but someone keeps fucking enabling me to buy books.
I love how you blame me for this shit. I have a whole bookcase full of stuff that you enabled me on in books, and I hit you with like 2, and suddenly I'm a dick because I make you buy books. Okay, fine. Whatever, Mary. Whatever.
Allie said, Confederates in the Attic conflicts me. Because he meets all these people that are super enthusiastic about history, and I identify with them. And then the more you read it, it's like, yeah, no, not okay. So Mike, I think, has managed to enable Allie to read Spying on the South.
See how it goes? See what happens?
This is what I do.
But Confederates in the Attic. That's the it starts off with he's like an embedded reenactor to like a Civil War reenactment group, and then he ultimately ends up being intrigued by it, and he goes and he studies more and more about it, and goes to the South, and it's basically like 4 or 5 short stories, and it talks about there was one guy where like I think I haven't read it in a couple of years, but I think like a black football player got shot and killed by some white high school kid in either Mississippi or Alabama or somewhere. And it talks about how the town was supportive of the white kid. It's really a social experiment, but it's definitely worth reading because it's really, really interesting. It's one of those books. If you're a northern guy like me, you're just going to shake your head and roll your eyes. And I used to live in Texas, and in full disclosure, I didn't see any of that down there. I really didn't. I didn't. I mean, I went one time. There was one time I was 17 years old, and I had a fake ID. I went into a bar, and it was a fake ID of a black guy, and I had it, but I used it, and it worked, which is a whole different thing. So I got to a bar, and I give him the ID, and he looks at me, and he goes, "If you got the balls to try this, you can come here and drink all you want." So that's how it was back then.
Somehow
So
I am
I'm
not
so
shocked.
so I'm oh yeah. So I'm sitting there at the bar, and the bartender goes, you know, "Where are you from? What can I get you?" And I said, there was no good beers back then, so I probably said like Miller Lite. And me and my Boston accent, the guy looks at me, and goes, "Son, where are you from?"
Miller Lite.
And I said, "I'm from Boston." And he looks at me, he goes, "Son, I hope you said Austin." But for the most part, it was subtle. I mean, I didn't see the real pro-Confederate stuff. Now, I've been to
Yeah.
South Carolina, I've been to Georgia, been to North Florida, and it's a lot different. Um,
Oh,
but
it's
Texas was mostly Northerners who transplanted back to the part of Texas I was in. But there's not a lot. Texas was one of those states that was reluctant to join the Confederacy from the beginning.
Yeah.
Sam Houston said it was the worst thing we could ever do
Yeah.
was signing our death warrant and so
Yeah.
Texas always considers himself a reluctant Confederate state,
Mhm.
despite what John Bell Hood and the first Texas thing. But
Fucking Hood.
yeah, but it was one of those things where you talk about the mentality. But any of these books you read, any of these books you read is going to be interesting because if you're from here, which I live in Cape Cod, it's not the most diverse place in the world, as is Goderich, Ontario. Okay?
I call my town is like Appalachia, Ontario. There's a town 15 minutes away from me called Bayfield, and I call it Cape Cod, Canada. You
Mhm.
could not ask for two more diverse communities in Huron County. It's crazy. I've taken you around my town on like that video walk we did the other day, and it
See
looks
the
like
cannons you
Appalachia.
guys have there.
Yeah, to keep the fucking Fenians away.
Oh,
That's what my grandma told me. And then I find out that in 1866, Sherman visits my hometown, and he comes and gives a speech, and he shockingly goes to like 6 different houses for parties. He like house hops and parties. And he ends up at this hotel. And my dad asked me, he's like, "Which hotel was he at?" And I told him, my dad's like, "You do realize that was the local brothel?" I'm like, I'm not fucking surprised. It's Sherman.
I mean, he could have been part of the 30th Corps, the XXX Corps.
XXX Corps.
With Butterfield and Hooker and the rest of them.
God,
Sickles.
Rough and ready.
Rough and ready. That was so funny.
Rough and
ready.
Gabe said, "We just renamed a Lee Road to Buffalo Soldiers Road a few weeks ago here in West Texas."
I've never been to West Texas. I've been to
I've never been to Texas, period.
Texas is a fun state. I've been and I was too bad my friend Fritz didn't jump on. He was on last week. He was one of my best friends. Oh my God, is he a good?
Do you know what's funny is everybody always says like the size of Texas. Texas can fit into Ontario. I don't know how many times.
Yeah. Well, Texas has got a different mentality. They were an independent country for a while, so they feel like it's I used to have a United States of Texas T-shirt back in the day. I thought it was fun. But it's a different world now. I haven't been to El Paso. Where the hell out there? That'd be cool. I have friends in New Mexico.
We were
I have
talking about
friends in
doing a road trip
Arizona.
to El Paso sometime.
We were?
Said yesterday.
I don't remember that.
No, it was yesterday when I was leaving work, and you were like, "Maybe we need to road trip down to El Paso." And
what the hell? I did?
Yeah, you did. You weren't even drinking at that point. Oh no, you were drinking at that point. I'm sorry.
I love Texas. I mean, Texas is fun. Well, but I think I think looking back at everything though, it's definitely a different mentality as far as that goes. But
Jacob, I never saw it firsthand in North Carolina, but in doing research for my thesis, I found an article written about a UNCW student who grew up in my hometown who apparently had things shouted at him during a youth soccer game, a game I played in. Ouch. Oh, hi, Sierra.
Oh, Sierra's on. Sierra's awesome.
Hi.
Texas and South Carolina, the same. See, I haven't been down to Texas in 20 years, so I have no idea how it is.
I've never been.
Austin is fun. Jen, 6th Street is a lot of fun in Austin. I'm sure you've partaken and stumbled up and down 6th Street. There's the thing about 6th Street is it's kind of like Nashville, where every single restaurant is a bar on 6th Street, and we used to do this thing called a 6th Street challenge, where you get one beer in every bar, and see how far you can make it up the street. But,
Gabe, the other Western theater, yeah, Texas. There was some stuff. There's some really Western battles that never get talked
the
about.
final battle of the Civil War was in Texas.
Yep. Sierra, hey y'all. I'm so happy she's here. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's cool.
Yeah, I've known her for a few years, and I know like I'm gonna meet her in person sometime. It's gonna be like we like pick up right where we left off. She's fun.
Mm-hmm. But I think the mentality, and at some point this was about Antietam, right?
This is what we talked about. This is just like, this is how you and I hang out, right? And like, to kind of get this community going like this is awesome, to have these conversations and just to create that.
It's fun to talk about because you can if you get with people, like-minded people who can have fun talking about this, it spills over to so many different things. It turns into a more sociologically, experiment, psychology, not just history. And like we said before, it's fun to go through all this and just look at the trends, the history, the what ifs, the people, the background, the stories, the soldiers, the civilians, all that stuff to get a big worldly thing. Because if you could read Coddington, you could read Sears and Fonz all you want, Freeman, any of them, but until you read the Sam Watkins, the Elijah Hunt Rhodes, the Abner Smalls, you really can't get a full worldly perspective about this whole thing. Because it's such a cool thing to study. But you gotta look at the ground roots up.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, myself included, start at the top. You work your way down. You start with Battle Cry of Freedom, when you read Grant's memoirs like everybody else does, and you end up going back. But you start at the bottom, work yourself up. It's such a better way to look at it.
It is, and that's why I've been recommending Justin Martin's book Fierce Glory so much.
Gloria Pass, he's right.
But actually we did. I'm part of another podcast called Real Spitter Podcast, it's focused on Abraham Lincoln, but we do talk about the Civil War.
Who's Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah, who's he? Anyway, we actually one of my co-hosts, Nick, he did some research about the westernmost battles, and I think Glorieta Pass was one of them. So we did an episode about that.
Do you know what they call that? The Gettysburg of the West.
Yep, that's what Nick was saying in the episode. It was really fascinating. Like, I was like, wow, this is cool. Anyway, I lost my train of thought.
That's not too hard.
I know it's not with me.
They did that pretty quickly, actually. But Glorieta Pass, that was a good one too.
Gabe said, just a reminder of how the events of the Civil War affect us today. Absolutely. One thing I want to mention about Sierra is her favorite Civil War general, and she'll correct me if I'm wrong, she loves Wade Hampton. And I just
really?
I love how into Wade Hampton she is. It's so cool to see how into some like it's really cool to get into these generals, and just like I'm all over like Howard, right? And Jen is big into Sherman, and Sierra, like her boy's Wade Hampton, and Jessica's is Chamberlain. Like, it's really cool to see that, like, just this, I say it's normal women have pictures of like whatever on their phone, like actors, modern day actors, celebrities. I got pictures of Howard and Sherman and like Warren and Barlow.
Yeah, I recently had to delete all my Tom Brady pictures, but I don't want to get going with that again.
Sierra, Wade Hampton's my 18th century boy. That's awesome.
Would it be 19th century?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Or is he like a Farragut who was 4 years old fighting in war? When you corrected me on live podcast.
Hey, you questioned it, and I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I've read that he fought in the War of 1812.
But I was born. He was born in 1801. So of course I'm going to think, how the fuck is he fighting in a war?
It's on his service record.
I didn't have his first service record with me, Mayor. I just assumed an 11-year-old person would be fighting in the Civil War.
It's fucking 19th century. What do you expect?
Probably a grandfather then too, probably. At that point.
Hey, you were the one that said I was 63 years old, so.
No, you were. I said you were. You know what? You know what? This is where I get my ass in trouble. So I'm going to shut my mouth. You know what? Yes.
You're in trouble, Darren.
Yes, I'm going to let that go. I'm just going to drop that right here.
Allie, I've been doing the same thing. The number of photos I had of Grant, it's too many. It's never too many, Allie.
Have fun with this. Have fun
Never.
with
You're
this.
having fun with it, whatever. Like my background at work is actually one that you made for me, Darren. It's Howard on the moon
That's where he is right now.
because he's a werewolf.
That's how bad he screwed up. They sent him right to the moon. He's still up there.
Oh, Ciara said Francis Marion is my 18th century boyfriend. I met Hampton was my 19th century boyfriend. That's awesome. Gabe commissioned at 9. He's looking up Farragut.
But that's an incredible story, though. I mean,
I
you're
told,
right.
and you were like, you're wrong.
Well, you know what? Child, please. Okay, that's not what I said.
Bitch, please.
Bitch, please. You know, you said, you know what? Okay, we'll take this one offline. You know, but you had said that he fought in the War of 1812. I knew he was born in 1801.
Yeah, and
So
I said,
I
yeah,
just
he was.
assumed that, but you were wishy-washy. You were like, I think he might have fought in 1812, and I thought you were thinking about his father, right? And I was wrong. Okay, I was wrong. I suck. I was wrong.
You don't suck. You just questioned my whatever.
I questioned if the almighty Queen of the North.
Fighting at the age of 12 in the War of 1812.
Yeah, that's why I didn't think it was possible. Who the hell fights at age 12? I was freaking paperboy at age 12.
Yes,
And get cars at age 12.
Ciara said there is no such thing as too many pictures of your favorite. Absolutely. I got pictures of, yeah, Howard, Sherman. I got pictures of Patrick Claiborne on my phone. Of course I do, right?
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
No.
I have pictures of Arthur Fremantle on my phone.
Look at you, scandalous.
Goes back to the Civil War, the Civil War Lampoon page. I have a lot of phones. I'm not gonna lie, and Henry Harrison too. I have pictures of Al Pagnelli on my phone that I use. As a matter of fact,
Scandalous. We're starting like a Civil War scandal here. Revealing what pictures are on our phones.
My phone.
That could get interesting.
Look at my phone.
No, don't. Gabe, have you ever seen Master and Commander? That is one of my favorite movies.
And it's also the longest title of any movie ever.
Love that movie so much. So does Heckman, actually.
John likes that movie?
Yeah, Heckman and I sometimes like he will put on there's this one song in it and he will put on I'm playing this right now. I bet like and I'll be like I'm putting that on right now. And it's this one song in the movie. And it's brilliant. It's this classical piece of music and it just defines what Master and Commander is. That is a movie that needed a fucking sequel right there.
What's the full title of that movie? It's
Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World. Have you ever seen it before?
Yes, of course I have.
You like it?
You're so judgmental. Yes, I was.
I'm not fucking judgmental. I'm Canadian. With a masshole attitude, apparently.
Oh my God, you fit right in here.
Wonder where I get that from. Gabe, Children at Sea. Master and Commander, Children at Sea.
Yeah, it's like, what's that Disney one about? What was the Mermaid, Little Mermaid?
What?
That's Children at Sea. I don't know what the hell.
Chris and I love that movie too. Yeah, Master and Commanders. It's awesome. The lesser of two weevils. You're frozen, Darren.
You're frozen too.
Okay. Oh, there we go. We're back.
You there?
Yep.
Yeah, all of a sudden I just froze.
Yep. It's just whatever. It's the internet.
But no, there's a lot of stuff, but yeah.
We'll have to add that to movie night.
I think there's a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think going back, going to Tropic for a second here, I guess, and trying to understand how the whole thing is. I spend an entire career studying 1862 if I really wanted.
Yeah.
I think more emphasis on 1865. 62 might be some important in American history.
I think it probably is. I think kind of like, you know, when I was like, that's what our latest episode of Real Splitter was about 1862 and we called it, you know, Lincoln's 2020.
I mean, it really was. It really, really was.
Yep.
You know, about a lot of that, because that, you know, beginning of 1862 starts with not knowing what's going to happen with this. Maybe the war is going to be quick. Maybe, who knows? And then by the time you get to the end of 1862, which is the end, which is, you know, Fredericksburg, and now he's got a question again about, you know, he's got the Butler Mud March, and he's got all that stuff that's going to be coming. I'll go back to this again. I think if Antietam falls, I think he's looking for an exit strategy. I think he has to be.
Yeah. Oh, he absolutely has to. And he always had, I think he always had an exit strategy in the back of his mind. Like if you look at him in the 1864 election, when he pulled his cabinet into that meeting, I think it was in August of 1864, and he said, hey, if I lose, first of all, I'm going to help the person that wins, and that person is going to be that fucker McClellan. But this is how it's going to be. And we have to prepare ourselves for giving up the union. You know, the union's not going to be how it was.
What do you think would have happened? I don't think we've ever talked about this before. What do you think would have happened if they lost Antietam as far as Lincoln? What do you think Lincoln's exit strategy would have been? Let's assume that was the case, okay? What do you think he would? He says, okay, you know what? I can't win. We have to get out of this. What do you think happens, and how do you think history changes?
I think he still would have tried to issue the Emancipation, but I think it wouldn't have. I don't think it would have taken hold, and I think it would have ended up in, like, I don't know.
Well, think of the ramifications.
Yeah.
They lose Antietam, you know. Palmerston issues that letter. England gets involved, despite the fact they liberated slavery in 1833. They get involved, so they're going to take out that blockade.
Yep.
Because the British at the time, I know as soon as the ironclads came later, the Americans had the best navy in the world, but at that time England still had it.
Yep.
How would it have been? Is terrible, but he was cute. Okay.
See, or I've actually come to have a little bit of respect for McClellan just because of what he managed to do in the 3 weeks from Second Manassas to Antietam. But again, this is like, it's everybody's own opinion, right? And I think, yeah, he's kind of cute. Right?
McClellan?
Cute hair girl, a little bit.
Anyway,
he's not. That's.
Who is though? I mean,
that hair. He's got true daddy hair.
Must have spent all day in that hair.
He probably did.
Especially with one arm.
One arm, he would have had to.
How the hell did he do the hairspray?
With one arm.
If he had
you
one
learn.
Arm. See, he could have done that whole Nikki Sixx blowout if he really wanted to.
That's what he did on the March of the Sea. Because there's no photos of him on the March of the Sea. He had total rock star hair on that.
Yeah, the internet sucked back then. He couldn't have done the videos, but you know, so going back to what we were talking about. I wonder how I think they lose Antietam. The British get involved. The French wouldn't have. The French would have stayed back. They wouldn't. But I think England gets involved. I think they break Scott's, his Anaconda thing, the blockade. I think that gets broken.
Yep.
They establish trade of cotton directly with England.
Yep.
They get arms. They get more Enfields from England. I think Lincoln at that point realizes he's going to have a two-front war because he's going to get because you Canadians up in Ontario would have been armed. They would have come down from the north.
Actually, I think it would have had ramifications for my own country, because at that point during the Civil War, we were not a country. We very quickly became a country in 1867 because England had us on the chopping block as something to offer to the United States. I think we would have been absorbed into the U.S.
The 1828 Tariff Act would have been irrelevant because they would have dealt directly with the Confederacy.
Yep.
I think that would have been it. I think Lincoln would have basically said, "We this is it." That would have been it. So you figure out that entire post Antietam thing, and that's why we say how important Antietam was.
Yeah.
And people, we said that on Twitter last week, and people thought we were crazy about that.
Oh yeah, there's some bar fight lines that you can drop in one of them. Antietam was the pivotal battle. First Corps broke first, which is entirely true.
Sickles' move up front wasn't all that bad.
And Howard called that fine piece of ass at Gettysburg before Hancock did.
And there's the whole Booth thing we talked about. Which
yeah, the whole Booth thing too. Yep.
But I think the reality is history would have changed. Antietam really is the big moment in that Civil War, and you can make a case otherwise. And if you do, cool, knock yourself out. I don't care. Okay. But in my own personal opinion, I think more focus has to be put on. I love Gettysburg. Gettysburg's my home. That's my heart. That's where it is.
Same here. That's my home too. Like Gettysburg's 100% always been my home.
but Antietam, with apologies to Vicksburg, with apologies to Atlanta, I think you can make a case that that Antietam
Absolutely.
is the most important battle when you look at military, political, sociologically, psychology, the entire thing.
Yeah.
I think that's everything.
Yeah, because
I think you're right though. I'm gonna say you're right, Mary. I'm gonna say that I think you're right. That
oh my God,
Lincoln,
and this is being recorded.
I'll deny this later. You know, I think he would have issued the Emancipation Proclamation anyway
Yep.
to try to keep England out. I think
Yep.
he would have said, "They're coming in. I have to."
He would have fought tooth and nail to the end as best he could,
Mhm.
but he
But I
would have
think,
known he
but
was fighting a
I think,
losing battle.
you know, I think England would have come in anyway. I think the biggest issue was the fact that the prices of cotton in Europe were skyrocketing. Just
Yep.
like if this was happening today, it would have been oil. Same
Yep.
deal.
And the prices were like, I mean, because we were a colony at that point, like there was one second Manassas, the Canadian Parliament cheered for the Confederacy winning.
Yeah. Well,
Like
you have to
we
understand
said
too.
we were with the North, but we were so like you, and it's interesting. I've been meaning to find these for you and send them to you. My local paper covered the Lincoln assassination. And the articles written about it, like the way Booth was written about, he's treated like seen as a martyr. It's a really interesting perspective to read the Canadian newspapers about the assassination.
Well, they had a stake in it too, because don't forget too, the United States at that time was the whole 20th century. What were wars that determined what was going to replace monarchy.
Exactly.
Sierra. Hey,
Yeah.
thanks for the support, Sierra. Appreciate that.
I
Thank
love you,
so much.
girl. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, well, thank you
Yeah,
so
there
much.
are a few. There are a few. My ancestors fought with Marion during the Revolution. Leonard said that.
That's pretty cool.
Ciara, about McClellan's wife. I'm assuming his wife was beautiful and a fashion queen. Absolutely. So was Libby Custer. She was fucking gorgeous. Yep, Ciara's relatives felt there too. I'm a witness for saying you're right.
Yeah, way to get my back. I appreciate that. Christ. Anyway, so I think most of Europe was still monarchy, and they were rooting for this American democratic experience to fail.
Yeah.
Because if it succeeded, it affected their power in Europe. So of course they wanted to see that situation fail. There's no question they did. So that's why they wanted to come in and break it all up. And it wasn't so much pro-slavery or pro-cotton. There was a lot of big thinkers involved with that. But that's why that Emancipation Proclamation, despite the fact that it really had no teeth behind it,
mm-hmm.
It's basically like Michael Scott declaring bankruptcy. Bankruptcy, you know.
Yeah. It was basically Lincoln saying, "This is what this war is about," just to shift how things were looking, right?
It didn't have anything to do with it. It was basically just calling it out. But I think there were a lot of people who wanted it to fail. And by all practical purposes, the South should have won the Civil War. And this whole thing should have ended. Because that's where you got to give Lincoln credit, is he stuck with it. He didn't give up.
Lincoln was a genius with Antietam, with putting McClellan back in charge, because he knew he's like, this is the guy that in 3 weeks' time can whip this army into shape, and then I can issue my emancipation. But the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this fucker in until after the elections, and then I'm going to replace him.
That's a very understated. You mentioned that. So Sierra, I'm going to say it. She was right again. Okay. But him not sacking McClellan until the election was brilliant on Lincoln's part.
Oh, yeah.
Brilliant. And it's one of those very understated things where if he fired McClellan right after Antietam, then he would have had an issue with McClellan, campaigning against him, stating what a mess it was, but he kept him on until afterwards and then got rid of him. He did it. He dumped her right after the prom. What he did.
Exactly. He was like, oh, wait, pick my moment.
He was with the prom queen of Rough and Ready, and then dumped her right afterwards. That's exactly what happened.
Who was also a cheerleader at Rough and Ready.
That's why she was the prom queen.
And he was the football star.
He was.
Jacob said, "Yay, the Office references." There, you've got somebody that finally understands your Office references.
Can you believe? Okay, that Mary has not seen The Office.
Well, I'm going to now just because of you.
This story from last year. Here we go again. I was sitting at the Tattered Flag Bar in Gettysburg 2 summers ago with a couple from Scranton, Pennsylvania, which, if you know The Office, that's where it takes place. They had never seen an episode of The Office that was supposed to be part of their hometown. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't
Wow.
believe it. I bought him a shot of whiskey just for that reason. We took a picture of it too. It was awesome.
Mike, didn't Russia actually help the Union when England and France approached Russia about laying off the Crimea while they combined to help the South, and Russia goes to Lincoln and tells him sending ships to help with the blockade?
I don't know. To be honest,
Quite
I
sure.
don't know
I'll
that.
have to look that up. I
It could
do
have
know
happened.
that Lincoln sent Simon Cameron to Russia, which was the biggest fuck you dick in the world.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot. The thing about it though, there was a Battle of Shrewd Farms. Yes, I mentioned this in the
Oh my
podcast.
God.
God damn it, Leonard's the man. I've dropped this thing so many times and she doesn't even get it. I said the Battle of Shrewd Farms is one of the biggest battles in the Civil
I
War,
haven't
and she just
seen it
glares.
yet.
It's like when you take a dog and you put a phone up to his ear and you talk that look. That's the look Mary gives me when I mention Shrewd Farm, because she hasn't heard of it. If you watch it, you'll see. Yeah, that look right there. If you watch it, you'll see the bat. You'll appreciate it. And they go to Gettysburg in the office too. There's a Gettysburg episode when they were all with the T-shirts. DM does GB. Dunder Mifflin does Gettysburg, and everyone thought it was something sexual. That was a great episode. So there's that look again.
Players
I'm
in
not doing it.
Canadian.
I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting here.
You're in trouble, Weeks. Whatever.
But I think I think there was going back to what we were saying before. I think there was a lot of international interest in the South winning just to break up the democracy, just to sit there and say, listen, all you people want democracy, and this is what happens. It's a civil war and it all falls apart. Is this what you really want? And I think that's what it was. Andy's best episode. Yes, he does that whole Gettysburg Address in the
Leonard
Lincoln background.
Gabe's one-man play about Lincoln.
Yep, that's what he's talking about. That was he does a thing where they mistaken him for a tour guide, and he talks about Lincoln. He does the whole right after the assassination. He pulls it out of his ass completely. Makes something happen. But it's you gotta see it.
I need to watch it now, clearly, so just I can be part of these. So not only is apparently Schitt's Creek one of our shows, so is The Office, which I haven't fucking seen before. So
I will
gotta
say
watch
though,
it.
when they get to the Gettysburg episode of The Office, the show had kind of jumped the shark a little bit, because Michael Scott was gone at that point. But it was it's a brilliant show. Those first 4 or 5 seasons, there was nothing better. God, come on.
We'll watch it. Okay.
Fine. Okay. I'm just telling you.
Well, I know, because every time like I don't get a reference, you ride my ass about it for an hour. Nobody needs that.
No. But it's definitely worth it. It's great. It's okay, Maryland, PA, and haven't seen the other opposite. It's so funny was when Cheers came out back when I was a kid.
Allie, it's okay, Mary. I live in PA and I haven't seen The Office. Thank God.
Isn't it funny how these things break right on gender terms with you and I with this thing?
It's hilarious.
Um,
Another interesting question from Mike. I wonder how much the Vatican was supporting the South. When John Surratt escaped after Lincoln's assassination, he was finally identified as one of the papal guards. Oh, Mike, you have hit on Darren and I we love the Lincoln assassination. If there's one
do you know
person
how
that
he?
knows more
Do you
about
know
the
how
Lincoln
he?
assassination, it's Darren.
How he got caught at the Vatican was one of the people at the Vatican was someone he went to school with in Maryland who recognized him. What are the odds you go to the Vatican? It's a papal guard, it's a papal zouave, and someone from your stupid high school in Maryland recognized you and drops diamond. And they had
Rough and Ready High School.
Rough and Ready High School. That's probably where they went. Right to the Vatican from Rough and Ready.
Jay Price is watching on her lunch break.
Oh, hey, Jen.
Hey, Jen.
So we were talking about Antietam. We assume you were at that bar over there in Antietam. But you want to talk about that whole situation. We go with the whole Lincoln thing, the assassination, was he gets spotted, and there was no extradition treaty with the Vatican. That's where the Catholic Church gets unfairly blamed, because they're like, you know something? Come and get him. All yours. They didn't tell him you can't get him. He escaped, and you know how he got caught? Was he went to Malta, John Surratt did, on a boat after he escaped literally a poop chute in a building. That's how he slid out. Honest to God, that's how he got out. He ended up on a boat, and he got stuck in Malta. And he got delayed there. You know why? Because they had a pandemic, and they couldn't cross the border.
Ouch.
That's how he got caught. And then he comes back to the United States. He gets tried. The same evidence, the same people, they brought back all the same people again on his trial in 67. They found it was a hung jury. He gets off. He ends up doing a speaking tour about everything he did. And then not the FBI, the military comes up and says, you know something, you're giving us more evidence. If you really want to keep doing your tours, we're going to try you again. And he finally said, well, I guess that's the end.
Fuck that shit.
And then he died in obscurity. So,
Gabe said, while in St. Petersburg, Clay won the support of Russia for the Union cause and convinced Tsar Alexander II to threaten worldwide war with England and France to keep them from intervening on the side of the Confederacy, with whom they both sympathized. The Russian Baltic Fleet arrived in New York Harbor in September 1863, and the Russian Far East Fleet arrived in San Francisco that October. The Tsar ordered his navy to be under Lincoln's command if war broke out. Oh, I didn't know that. See, this is why one of the reasons we do this live. We want you guys to tell us this stuff because it's so fascinating, it's so interesting, and we're all going to learn more from it. And the thing is I'm actually recording this week. This will be on, so not only can you watch it on YouTube, you can see it, like you can see it on Facebook, but it's going to be available as an episode to download as well. Some more, Jen, no bars. Laura did have the G Mixy IPA though. She's probably still drinking it too, isn't she? Christopher, LOL, tell that pumpkin beer fiend over there to be quiet.
Is that me? Wow, okay. I guess I'll shut up then.
Jacob, hashtag free Mary Surratt. Yeah, we are both team Mary here. She got a raw deal. She shouldn't have hung. I'm just putting it out there.
Oh God, we'll get that. Here we go again with that whole thing.
Yep.
Luckily Kate's not on. She'd rip you for that one.
Hey, you know what? People are entitled to their opinion with that, and I've talked to you enough about it. Read Assassin's Accomplice. Come to my own conclusions about it. You know.
No, I think we're going to do a whole podcast on Mary Surratt. We have some ideas about how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a lot about John Wilkes Booth. We're going to talk a lot about the assassination conspiracy. And I think it'll be a fun one to do.
Yeah.
People are going to take it that we're promoting Booth and blah blah freaking blah.
We're not.
But I think you have to look. I think you have to look at the full picture of someone like that and look at his background. The book that I'm reading now is John Wilkes Booth. It's a sister's memoir by Asia Booth, his sister, and it's a really interesting read about his background and stuff like that. So we'll do, we'll talk more about that going forward.
And I'm listening to the audiobook of American Brutus, which Darren enabled me on that. I also have a hard copy of the book too. But American Brutus is an amazing, love it. So engaging, so interesting. Just it's. The assassination was actually what got me into all this Civil War stuff. And then from there, I went into Lincoln. And from there, I got into the Civil War, which is Civil War is that is my passion right there, is studying that. We do have a few more comments.
Yeah.
She finished it, but she took a while. Actually, she never started drinking at all. That sounds like McClellan.
Yeah. Exactly.
Jacob, I think we disagree, but I personally think she deserved a sentence similar to Mudd. There was more evidence against Mudd.
I think they should have gone the other way.
Yeah, it should have gone reverse. There was more evidence against Mudd.
People don't realize Mudd is the guy who introduced Booth to John Surratt in Washington, D.C. for Christmas, December of 1864.
December of 1864.
And it was arrangement. And so Mudd, I'm sorry, he's as guilty as the day is long. He should have.
Yep. I've always thought that about Mudd. And it was funny. I was sitting talking to my mother one night, and she's very interested in loves the Kennedy. She's a Kennedy girl, whatever. Really interested in the Kennedy assassination. But she was asking me about, because she saw Assassin's Accomplice on the table. And I said, oh, that's about Mary Surratt. And she said, oh, that's the woman that hung, right? And I said, absolutely. Yeah. And I said, she shouldn't have hung. And she was like, well, how do you feel about Mudd? And I said, Mudd, there was more evidence against Mudd than there was against her. And I told her, I said, Mudd is the man that introduced John Surratt and Booth to each other. He's the guy.
Yeah, I mean, this is a conversation for another day. But I mean, Surratt. A lot of the evidence used against Mary was hearsay, mostly from John Lloyd and Louis Weichman. The thing about her, though, I mean, there's that story about how Weichman had said they were riding back after the assassination back to D.C. from Surratt's Tavern in Maryland, and he commented those fireworks going on and how happy people were, and he said that she said something like, "Well, all their happiness will turn to gloom here soon." And
Yeah.
But that's all hearsay. The one thing I will say about Mary Surratt that really does indict her, though, is the Richard Smoot story that came afterwards.
Yeah.
This is a story that came out after the trial, where the day of the assassination, she's going to church, and it starts to rain, so she goes back and decides, I'm not going to go to church today. So while she's walking back into her house on H Street at the Surratt boarding house, which is a place I've done karaoke, by the way,
Or I'm
which is
going to
not a
go do
walk and roll
karaoke.
restaurant. So if you're going to do it, you definitely suggest you do it. It's a
Or
cool bar.
Darren and I are going to go do karaoke there in our DC tour.
To hear you sing, definitely. We'll
Nobody
record
needs
that.
to fucking hear me sing unless I've been fucking drinking.
So she's standing there at the door, and this guy named Richard Smoot walks up. And he's a guy who was the one who was on the boat on the Potomac that George Atzerodt had arranged for them to escape across the Potomac after they kidnapped Lincoln. He's the one who owned the boat. So they paid for half of it. They put a deposit down. He wanted the rest of his money. So he goes back to Washington, D.C., and he wants the rest of his money. Again, bitch, where's my money, right? Goes back to that whole thing. Mary Surratt says to him, and this is something that came out afterwards that he said, and this I guess is true because there's no reason for him to lie because she was already dead. He comes back and says, I need my money. And she goes, you need to go. They're going to use the boat tonight. You need to get out of here now. And so whatever, maybe she thought it was still a kidnapping.
Who knows what she probably did, because it went from kidnapping to like, we're going to fucking go kill him really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she would have had time to even know that.
But did she think, there was no Richmond to take him back to anymore, so did they really? So maybe she did. Leonard and I picked up Assassin's Accomplice a few weeks ago. That is our friend Kate Larson's book, which is highly recommend reading capital THE, the book on Mary Surratt. Not even a question.
Yeah.
That is
Jay Price said the New York soldier found at Antietam in 2009 was actually buried at a national cemetery in New York. By the way, Jen, your new name on this show is just Jay Price. You're like Prince. You're like Darren, the artist formerly known as
the moon in the beer can. God.
The moon. Christopher said, yes, I was referring to him making me thirsty all the time on Twitter.
Yeah, drink those pumpkin beers.
Yeah.
So this one, I would highly suggest this one, by the way.
Mike said, I'm rereading Come Retribution about the Confederate Secret Service and the Lincoln assassination. So interesting thing about the Confederate Secret Service is they had like a headquarters in Montreal, Canada.
Yeah, Montreal.
And so John Wilkes Booth, one of the things they found when he was killed was some Canadian money. And he also had a bank account with what was called the Bank of Ontario, which was later absorbed by the Bank of Montreal, which is still a bank here in Canada.
Yet you got that Canadian's jacket after all. Huh?
From Montreal, the hotbed of the fucking Confederacy.
It all goes back to the Canadian, Montreal Canadiens. Unbelievable.
Christopher said, I agree with you both. And Christopher said, I'm assuming you saw The Conspirator Opinions. Yes, we love that movie.
We watched it a couple of weeks ago, as a matter of fact.
Yep, it's heart-wrenching to watch.
It's very tough. The Assassin's Accomplice had a lot to do with that movie. I think the cover of the book, now the modern cover, is like actually has
that's what I have. It's got her on it.
The one I have is an older one, but The Conspirator is very, very good. Now, it's not the most historically accurate movie because she says right in the movie, basically, I only thought it was a kidnapping. She never said that.
No.
There's a few things,
they take liberty, like Glory, Lincoln, they all take historical liberties, right? You know, and that's why it's important to read as many sources as possible. But if it sparks somebody's interest in it and they go and seek out more, then that's what it's meant to do. But the movie's excellent. I thought it was a really, like, I cried. I think the last half hour, I just cried because I could not believe, like, it was basically like, I mean, she knew something, but it was a miscarriage of justice, the whole thing, you know?
Yeah, there's a couple of books, The Judicial Murder of Mary Surratt, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
That a lot of the anti-Mary people just hate because they just hate it because they don't want to hear it. Was he in Canada just a few days? Not a few days, it was a few weeks before. He was in Washington, D.C. for a while before the assassination, but he was in Montreal.
Leonard said, I picked up Assassin's Accomplice a few weeks back. Thanks for the book enabling. You're welcome.
Excellent. Louis Weichmann was trash. I would agree with that. He certainly was. He worked for the War Department. And it's probably the only reason why he was a witness and not a conspirator? It's because you have
You
the
can
opposite.
totally see him changing his story in his mind to make himself look better. Like that's what I'm getting from, like, I'm to the part where they're at Surratt. They've just gone to Surratt. Oh no, Lincoln's about to die in American Brutus, but they've gone to Surratt's boarding house. I can literally, like, I'm thinking of Weichman. I'm like, that dude is changing his story as he's going to make himself look better, and he's willing to throw whoever under the carriage.
Well, what's funny about that is Louis Weichman had given a lot of the testimony, as did a guy named John Lloyd, who was the saloon owner, or the guy who managed the Surratt Tavern down in Clinton, Maryland. But George Atzerodt actually gave a lot of the better witness testimony
Yeah.
because he thought they would make him a witness too, and they basically said, "Oh, thank you so much. Oh, by the way, you're going to die
Yeah,
anyway."
you're gonna swing. But like,
You know,
George went into that thinking he just wanted to kidnap, and then when he said, like, I'm not in this if we're gonna kill people, that's not what I signed up for. And Booth is like, too bad, dude.
but you know what though? He was an immigrant. He was a
Yeah,
German,
exactly.
and
Like,
this country still to this day is not big on immigrants, and so
yeah,
unfortunately, so the same reason why Mudd didn't get executed, because he was a doctor and he was a higher level of society. There's a lot of bullshit.
yeah,
You know, why people like, you know, Thomas Jones or Samuel Cox or John, Jett or Bainbridge, or all the people who really had to do with Booth's escape, why none of them got really tried. I mean, how Cox and Jones didn't even go on trial when they're the ones who basically hid him in the pine thicket, fed him, got him across the Potomac, and they weren't even in the trial.
exactly.
You know,
Gabe said the Office connection. Rainn Wilson plays Harry Mudd in Star Trek Discovery.
yeah, different Mudd, but point taken. Point taken.
Yeah, but Gabe said earlier, wait, I thought Mudd was in Star Trek. Discovery, is that the one that Anson Mount's not in that one. I love Anson Mount. He was in Hell on Wheels. Great show. Jen said, I like it, sounds mysterious. Oh, you already answered the Booth in Canada. Jen, I hate that movie, The Conspirator. Yeah, it was like, my God, I was like heaving, sobbing, watching it.
Yeah, you're bumming on that one.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, it's a tough story to watch, and Robin Wright plays her really, really well.
Yep.
James McAvoy does a real good job with Aiken, not Clay Aiken, but John Aiken. So, the Clay Aiken.
God.
If you had him in that movie, it would have been interesting, wouldn't it? He'd sing the whole time.
Weird.
He sings almost as good as you do, actually. Close. Barry Fincher, easily shaken. But that's
shaken,
good,
not stirred.
Oh God, here we go. But that's a good one though. That's a really solid, really good solid. I don't hate the movie. I like it. Just any movie that delves in history, especially Booth, is always going to be appreciated by me.
Oh, same here for me.
And we were talking yesterday, and the day before, we were talking about the Killing Lincoln thing.
Yeah.
Was that yesterday?
Yeah, it was yesterday. Like, I brought up the fact that I think so. There's this. So, I want to make this clear here. Bill O'Reilly wrote a really, I don't like it at all. It's called Killing Lincoln. There is a Nat Geo documentary called Killing Lincoln, which came out, I think it was in 2013. Bill O'Reilly is listed as like the executive producer. That's just like namesake, or like they had to. He's actually, we did a Real Splitter episode about it, the other podcast I'm part of. Bill O'Reilly was not involved with it at all. And it's not at all like his book. But the way Booth is portrayed in it, he's over the top. The way he talks is always very dramatic. And as I'm listening to American Brutus yesterday, and the one thing that the author says in the introduction is that everybody was shocked that Booth would assassinate the president. And I started thinking, like, is the portrayal of Booth in Killing Lincoln accurate? Like, was he really that over the top? Because he's very forceful. And he says to Atzerodt, he's like, you're in this and you're not leaving.
Well, he dropped enough evidence around people. He tried to implicate Andrew Johnson.
Yeah.
He tried. I mean, the thing you can say about Booth, okay, was he wanted to make sure that if this didn't happen, if he did it and they all dicked him over, they were all going to get in trouble for it. I mean, Atzerodt had no chance. Davy Harold had no chance. Surratt had no chance. Anybody who was going to be convicted had no chance. But I guess the bigger picture, and this, I don't want to get into the whole Otto Eisenschimmel conspiracy about, Stanton and the church and all that. But it's interesting when you study that assassination, how some people were guilty no matter what. Some people were innocent no matter what. It's just, and
Yeah.
Jen's just people sharing their views. But what I hate is when there's no room for who considers, well, that's not what this whole thing is about. This whole thing
Mhm.
we're doing is
Yeah.
not, you can't, in this Civil War world, you simply cannot have superlatives, yes and no. You can't have this is the best, this is the worst, I'm right, you're wrong, because no one friggin' knows. Like we said before, no one's a Confederate here, no one's a Union
No.
person here, no one knows. And it's all
Yep.
opinion. And
Everyone's
so,
opinions are welcome. You're not going to be judged. Just come here and tell us what you think, because it creates great discussion. Like Jacob said, Weichman writes his own account. I read and used it for my capstone. He just plain out sucked. The odd obsession I have with Booth begins with his weird and amazing ability to convince people, at least to track the others and social outcasts. Absolutely. Booth was very charming. I think, if you were to sit with John Wilkes Booth and have a beer with him, you would come away thinking, wow, that guy's pretty cool. And then when you hear he assassinates the president, it's like, I never thought that he would do that. Like,
who had a drink with John Wilkes Booth was John Parker the night of the assassination. You know who he is?
His bodyguard.
His bodyguard. And that whole story is a chilling story. I'm sure most people know it, where John Parker, he's the handman of Lincoln. He goes to the Star Tavern, which is right next door to Ford's Theater.
Yep.
And no one thought he was going to shoot Lincoln, so anybody was going to. So he's having a whiskey, and he sees John Wilkes Booth. And it was one of those situations, kind of like you're sitting at a bar with someone, and the bartender's busting balls, and you're talking.
Yep.
And they look at Booth and go, John, you're John Wilkes. You'll never be as famous as your brother.
When I leave the stage, I will be the most talked about man in America.
I'll be the most famous person in America by the time this night is over, he said. And whatever it's worth, it's just a cool story.
It is. It's so interesting to look at. So Jen said she's still trying to confirm why the Antietam illumination is in December. I think I know, but I want to make sure I'm right before I tell you guys. That's awesome, Jen. Thank you. And Jen's actually going to continue. She's actually driving back from Sharpsburg. So Jay Price, safe travels. Let me know when you're home safe. I'll send you a message. Leonard said, I've always been suspicious of Stanton personally.
Yep.
Thank you. Stanton, I don't like the guy. Like, I mean, he's brilliant as Secretary of War, but he does some super shady fucking shit. Like, not only with Mary Surratt, but with Sherman as well. So Sherman does the surrender with Johnston. He uses the terms that Grant uses with Lee. But the thing to remember is Sherman had that meeting aboard the River Queen. There was Sherman, Grant, Porter. Yes, Porter and Lincoln. And the reason I trust Sherman's opinion on this is because Sherman had a very photographic memory. He was really good at recalling details. You know that from his memoirs. He recalled what Lincoln said in that meeting. And keep in mind that hours before Sherman meets with Johnston to hammer out the surrender, Sherman has just found out that Lincoln has been assassinated. And Sherman came away from seeing Lincoln at City Point thinking he was the greatest man I ever knew. Like, if you read what Sherman wrote about him in his memoirs, it's really amazing that Sherman went from not wanting to vote for Lincoln, not wanting to have him as president, to revering him as the greatest man he knew. So Sherman's going into that high emotion. So he does these. Don't die.
Bang my hand. It happens. Don't worry about it.
Jesus Christ.
Continue.
So he goes into this with very high emotions, and he does these terms of surrender, sends them back, and Stanton reads them and is like, fuck that shit, because Stanton has it in for Sherman for some reason. He sends men down to Savannah to find out if Sherman's treating the African Americans bad, and the African Americans are like, no, he's actually treating us fine. Like, what the hell, dude? Like, what are you doing?
Stanton was just, he's a power hungry guy. He wanted,
he
thought he would be president. He had no respect for Lincoln, had no respect for any authority. I don't buy the whole he was behind. The TV road thing is kind of sketchy, and a lot of that one.
But yeah, no, I don't buy that. I don't buy that that Stanton was involved in the conspiracy, but I just think he was a guy that made things personal, and just the fact that he took Sherman into the media with what he did, and he did this whole smear campaign. But then Sherman had the last laugh at the Grand Review on, I think it was May the 4th, or not May the 4th, whenever that was in 1865 in Washington, D.C. He refused to shake his hand. He was like, we're not doing this.
A couple years later, Stanton was dead. 1869, just drops dead.
Yeah, yeah. So no, I don't have a high opinion of Stanton at all. Like,
Lewis Powell. I always go by Lewis Powell.
yeah, Payne Powell.
He was Lewis Powell. I mean,
Well,
Payne was a. That's a
it,
cool story too, actually.
it's actually funny in we'll have to watch Killing Lincoln sometime, Darren, because like it's really funny how Booth, like, Powell will be like, it's Powell now, not Payne, and Booth is like, get your aliases right, lest they
Well,
trip you up. And then he says, he's like, what are you going by? Lewis, Powell, Mosby, pick one. Like, that's what he says to him. He's like, pick one and stick with it.
Real life, Lewis Powell. He's always Lewis Powell. He fought at Gettysburg in the Second Florida, which is pretty cool. He gets injured July 2nd, 1863.
Yep.
Ends up at the where Gettysburg College is now at the hospital. Ends up getting transferred to Maryland, where his girlfriend Mary Branson, another friggin' Mary, causing problems, by the way, yet another one. He breaks him out of jail, literally puts a $10 bill in a cake, gets him broken out of prison, which is a great story. He ends up joining Mosby's Partisan Rangers.
Yep.
And he stays with a family called the Paynes. And there's a kid named Lewis Payne in the house. He likes the name. He assumes that alias whenever he gets arrested. Now he's Lewis Payne. But that's where the name comes from. It was a family he stayed in.
Interesting.
And so, but he was always Lewis Powell. He's always been Lewis Powell.
Yeah, it was funny when, like, and there was one part in Killing Lincoln where Booth is in this, like, he's practicing shooting with the Derringer the night before, and Powell's with him, and he says like the other name, and Booth is just like shooting, and he's like, what? Are you changing your name again? Can you make up your fucking mind, dude? Yeah, and then when they're meeting the night before the assassination, he says the other name, and Booth is like, could we decide on a name, because you're gonna get tripped up and you're gonna fuck this shit up for us.
Yeah, because there's so many 6'1", monster Frankenstein looking people with big long coats walking the streets. Yeah,
but the way Booth looks at him is like, dude.
Yeah, it's fun. That whole part of history is just a fascinating story.
Yeah,
it just really it really is. So yeah, well, but we're gonna do a podcast on that. We're gonna probably spend at least one episode talking about that.
Yeah, because we both love the assassination.
And we're trying to get some people to come on with us. We'll see how that goes. Like we said, we have an idea of how we want to handle that, but we'll keep that under wraps for now.
We'll probably, I think we probably should do an episode just about us talking about the documentary Killing Lincoln, because I think it is a great kind of introductory into the assassination. It doesn't give a lot of detail, but it is one of the best, like, docudramas I've ever seen. Like, Billy Campbell as Lincoln is amazing. Jesse Johnson as Booth, he's pretty good, but I'm now questioning if he was a little bit over the top. But Tom Hanks narrates it. It's so good.
The problem with the documentary with Booth, to be honest, is it's like we talked about before. People assume the way they wrote is the way they talked.
Yeah.
And John Wilkes Booth, being a Shakespearean actor, he didn't stay in character everywhere he went.
No, in the documentary, he's like, he says to Atzerodt, when Atzerodt's like, I didn't sign up for this, he's like, this is an act of war, and we are all like into it. I have seen to it. And then he like lights this gunpowder on fire.
We must maintain the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, David Harold. That's not the way he talked. I mean, just the way he was. He probably said, we're fucking doing this. Fuck off.
Fucking doing this, dude.
To go into Mary language here.
Yeah, you're fucking in this.
But it's interesting how they did. I mean, he was probably more flamboyant and outgoing and stuff like that.
Oh, he was. Like, we had Dave Taylor on to talk about Booth for like 3 episodes in Rail Splitter, and we did discuss Killing Lincoln, and one of the questions we asked was Booth really that flamboyant, and Dave said he probably was. And yeah, he probably was a little bit, like, obviously he's an actor, so he's an extrovert, so he's going to be very flamboyant or whatever.
I think he was publicly when he was in places in public.
Yeah.
But sitting around eating oysters, drinking whiskey at the National Hotel, I doubt he was going to King Richard. I doubt he was.
No, I don't think he was.
What was interesting about that, though, was his hotel. Now we're going totally off the trail here.
Whatever.
His hotel where he lived, the National Hotel, was built on the site of the museum. Have you been to Washington, D.C.? So if you go to the museum, which actually just closed, but that site of the museum was the site of where John Wilkes Booth lived.
Wow.
It was pretty cool. So,
Jacob said Stanton has some big issues, but I do kind of like him. He was born and practiced law close by my home. I've been in Stanton's hometown. I think it's Steubenville, Ohio. I've been there before. Like, I mean, I do respect Stanton, but I don't like what he did to Sherman because it was personal, and I don't like how he was with the conspirators and Surratt. Like, I think he was so power hungry, and he was using, my opinion is he was using Johnson as a puppet at that point. And then all of a sudden Johnson is like, comes to, and he's like, not playing this game anymore. You know, he was just, you know, but I think Stanton, with the assassination, how he did everything, he was probably the right person to have in there. But I do, like, I mean, my favorite cabinet member is Gideon Wells, hands down.
Gideon Wells. He seemed like
I love Gideon Wells. His diary is amazing. He writes about the cabinet drama, and he's so fucking hilarious writing about it in his diary. Like, he was just a dude that came, he's like, I'm here to do my job. I don't want to deal with the drama. And he would just leave and go home.
Yeah.
I like Edward Bates too. Like, I love Bates. He was,
the fact that McClellan hated Wells never made sense to me either.
yeah, he refers to Wells as a garrulous old woman or something like that. It's like, dude.
First of all, I don't think he was garrulous.
Puppy.
I don't think he over talked. I don't think he was
No.
garrulous. The old woman, I mean, he looked like he had a cooking show on a British TV. He did. Gideon Wells could be one of those British gardening TV shows. He could have been. He could have done that.
He totally could. I love Wells. Like, he's my, between him and Bates, they're my two favorite cabinet members. Like, I just, you know, Bates is there for whatever, like, he's part of the book Team Arrival. I think he's in Team Arrivals.
Yes.
But I love how, you know, Lincoln brings him in for the reasons he does. And I think him and Wells were just there to do the job. Whereas somebody like, you know, Chase is like, fucking Chase. I can't stand him either. Or his daughter, Kate. I can't stand Kate Chase. Fucking bitch.
It's you.
Been to his grave before too.
So it's funny. It's amazing how many cemeteries you and I have been in.
I know.
I mean, seriously.
It's just cool.
And I love them. I love doing that stuff.
Gabe's got an answer for us from Keith Snyder, the Battlefield's Chief of Resources at Antietam, in reference to the illumination of 2019. It is done this time of year for two primary reasons. One, we want the maximum amount of darkness since it is a nighttime program. And two, we have to get all the crops cleared from our fields so we can use them. He said this competitor program needs open fields and darkness. Wow, that
makes sense.
Yeah, thanks,
that's actually a pretty solid reason. That's a good way to dig deep there. That's pretty. That actually makes total sense because it's after the harvest. It's obviously dark.
Yeah.
And so okay. Well, that's
Leonard loved Gideon Wells too, and Mike Chase. Boo. Yeah. No, I don't like Sam Chase at all.
Some of these guys are unbelievable. But not exactly a fun cabinet. I mean, I'm sure most presidential cabinets aren't exactly a good time anyway. But Lincoln's, you know, in Doris Kearns Goodwin's book, Team Arrivals is pretty good. Ultimately turned into the Lincoln movie. Kind of a dry read though.
It was really dry. I have to say my favorite parts though were reading about Seward and reading about Bates.
Yeah.
I loved reading. I don't know why I've got such a fascination with Bates. I just do. Allie said, I remember reading that McClellan was happy when Stanton came in and then he did a complete 180 on the dude. He had no love for anyone there. It's, oh my God.
McClellan didn't like anybody. He didn't like anybody.
McClellan liked his wife. McClellan's like Braxton Bragg. So Braxton Bragg, I say McClellan didn't like anybody except his wife and his dog. I don't know if he had a dog, but if he did, it was probably called Braxy.
Don't even look it up. It's true.
Braxy.
Mary says it's true.
But yeah, so she said here, yeah, McClellan just, like, I've got a whole book full of his letters. You just open to a page and read it, and he is such a drama queen.
Yeah, well, I mean, he clearly didn't like anybody in authority. He didn't like Lincoln. No. He didn't like Wells. He didn't like any of them. You pick one. He's that guy at work who hates everybody.
Yeah,
who thinks he should be the
nice
boss.
To your face.
He is, and everyone likes him because he's funny and makes you feel good.
It's like, dude, that guy.
That's who he is.
It's like he has this meeting with Lincoln in 1862, and he hands him a letter for how he thinks the Civil War should go. And Lincoln opens it in front of him, reads it, and he's like, pockets it.
No, but could you just? I mean, that's who he was, and that's why it's cool when you get to know these people. And it feels like that's what we're doing with these people, is kind of getting to know them, is just understanding what just understanding their personalities and how they are and how they hate each other, and they were mean girls to each other, and
Oh,
And Lincoln,
totally.
Lincoln must have face palmed so many times in his life. He must
I think
shake his head.
there's people that say Lincoln never swore. I guarantee you in the year 1862, Lincoln dropped a few.
Oh, of course
Fuck
he
this
swore.
shit.
Of course he did.
Fuck McClellan.
Imagine that. We're fucking whalers.
McClellan, that fucker. Allie asked, what book is that, Mayor? I've been looking around for it. Allie, I will post a picture of it. I think it's called something. If you Google the Civil War Correspondence of George B. McClellan, it is edited by Sears. I don't know if it's still in print. You can probably get it used, but I know it's edited by Sears. It's a really good book. I'm assuming that's the one she's referring to. Leonard said Montgomery Blair is pretty cool as well. Yep. And then he left the cabinet, and I think James Speed replaced him.
You're dusting off these nuggets here now.
Speed was the one that said, yes, Stanton, it needs to be a military tribunal for the conspirators.
He was the one, because he had said that for the same reason you would not try a soldier for killing another soldier in a civil court for murder. That was a justification, James Speed.
Yep. It's hilarious. Stanton is the one that gets Sickles off. Like, that sounded really bad.
Wow.
Stanton is the one that defends Sickles when Sickles murders
once again,
Martin Key.
She's embarrassing the children. But I think you're right, though. I think that was the one who did.
Yeah, Stanton, he defended Sickles, and it was the first time a plea for insanity was. Stop.
Was there a handkerchief being waved as they walked by?
Yes.
Was it the key to the defense?
Martin Key.
Oh, well. Well, I think we're about done here, Mary.
I think so.
We've been going for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, we have. Oh my God. Thank you to everybody who tuned in today. We thought we were like, yeah, we'll do this for like half an hour and then people are going to get tired of it. Here we are 2.5 hours later.
Well, I'm out of beer, so I have to jump off.
Yeah, I'm actually almost out of beer too.
But no, I think this is a good thing. So just, so
sure.
The little coming attractions. Our next podcast will be about Chickamauga, and the Chickamama will be handling those for the most part. That's her baby, is Chickamauga, no doubt about it. So get your drinks ready to take a swill every time you hear the word Snodgrass, the word Minty, or the word Wilder, because you're going to be hearing a lot about them, about how
for Wildy and Minty.
Wildy and Minty will be talking about defending bridges and Spencer Peters, and we'll be hearing all kinds of good stuff at the beginning. We'll be doing a two-parter, I believe.
We are, yeah. So we're going to cover kind of the lead up to Chickamauga and then the first day, which is September 18th, and see how far we get into the 19th, and then we will pick it up the following week with the rest of it.
So some good stuff coming down the pipe. So
yeah,
but this was fun. Always a good time to talk about. I think we talked about it in Tatum. I don't know if we did.
We did. It was a great conversation. You guys are a great community. Thanks for everybody who popped on and all that. And if you guys have any episode ideas, just let us know. You can send us an email, civilwarbreakfastclub@gmail.com. We are on Twitter, Instagram, as well as Facebook, and
YouTube,
YouTube as well. Yeah. So this live will be posted on YouTube later as well. It will be available for download on all the platforms that we're on, because this is kind of going to be episode 6.5 basically.
In full disclosure, we had some microphone issues in our podcast. Now I've got a microphone.
He's got look at him with the technology.
Hear any scratchy noises? Mary's telling me, "You fucking microphone."
I did not do that.
That's exactly what she did. Exactly what she did. But those issues are over. So if you hear any scratching, annoying sounds, that's over. You're going to be hearing. I had to buy this courtesy of Amazon, which I've got a permanent account now, thanks to Mary. But we'll be not having any of those technical issues anymore. So
I think Allie said she's going to be in the area of Chickamauga next week, and that's awesome. Nice. Yeah. Feel free, Allie, when you're there. Like, I think you should be able to post pictures to your Facebook page if you want to. Like, post some photos, because it's a beautiful place. That's awesome.
Go to Snodgrass Hill and post pictures.
Yep,
Mary's
that's my
best buddy.
favorite. Yep.
Mary's best buddy talking about Snodgrass Hill.
Love that place.
All right. Well, anyway, thanks everybody for jumping on today. It's always fun to do this and just kind of kill a morning. We drop our podcast at 7:30, and then we kill time for a little while. Then we jump on live at 10. So
this is awesome.
Definitely always a good time. So anything you guys want to talk about, any ideas for future podcasts, or you just want to shoot the shit with us, jump on.
Mhm.
Always appreciate the viewership. And like I said before, there's no wrong answer. So anything you want to bring out, if we fuck something up, if,
Yeah, we're
Mary
not
at
gonna.
civilwarbreakfastclub.com. Send her all your hate mail. So I don't need any letters. Send it to her. But certainly we'll definitely take that for the next time.
Yep. So until next weekend, we will see you guys then. Until then, have a wonderful Saturday. Have a wonderful week. And actually also put this out there too. If there's anything that you want us to talk about in the next 2 episodes about Chickamauga, reach out to us, email, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Let us know. If we don't cover it on the episode, we will definitely try and cover it. Well, we will cover it on the Facebook Live. So anyway, until next time, we will see you guys again soon. Have a great day.
Peace out, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye. Okay, and I'm going to stop recording.